night for Blankies. Blankies. Who will win? Oh, we got 5 bloods. The 5 bloods. You got a mank about the script. You got it right.
I got it.
Minare. Oh, Minare. Oh,
what?
Give me just one night. Oh, in Miami. Marini.
No.
Marini with the black bottom. Any way you tan it, that's the way you need it. Any way you tan it. Listen, I didn't watch most of these fucking movies.
He still got it. That's what I'm saying.
I would say that to say I'm at my wit's end would be false. I probably reached my wit's end like 3 months ago,
Sure.
and I'm now
look
far
behind you.
past that point. In November, I was very confident. I wrote down all these movies and I looked up song titles that felt like I could work them in, and then I just never did the work.
No, you didn't watch them.
So that's your very Crystal 2011 kind of a place. 2012.
No, but also
whatever
look, I also just didn't look up the song lyrics for most of these. Here's an example of something I did. I wrote Nomadland equals No Man's Land, Billy Joel. I don't know how that fucking song goes.
I don't know how that song goes.
I never even listened to that song.
I mean, you could have, but you didn't have to. Personal responsibility, is the name of the game this year, right? Everyone's got to just take care of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought at some point in November, it would be funny to do a parody song for the father based around Alan Sherman's Hello Mutta, Hello Fada.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And that's exactly how far I got.
You could do First Cow to the tune of Last Dance.
Yeah,
if you were feeling very disco.
Yes,
Griffin,
yes.
the Hello Fada, Hello Mutta thing, that is soming that Billy Crystal would have.
100%.
There's no overlap there. You and Billy Crystal are a perfect circle Venn diagram. Yes.
Yeah, here's the other notes I wrote down. News of the world. Part of your world?
Works for me.
News of the world. Yeah,
right.
Like that.
Okay. Soul. Crank that Soldier Boy?
That one I think maybe could use a second look. I just want to say.
Oh, you think that one could use a second look?
I think that one could use a pop.
I feel like there's a lot of songs with like soul already in the title. That like I get like you want to go a little further afield of like Soul Man or something.
I wrote
like that.
alts. My alt was or Soul Man by Sam and Dave, but that felt a little.
Sure, that's easy.
Right.
Right.
You don't want to be lazy about this. You want to,
I'm a soul, man would probably be that.
Right.
I'm a soul man in a cat now.
Yeah.
One Night Miami, Give Me Just One Night, 98 Degrees, or Miami Will Smith, or Waiting for Tonight Jennifer. Look, these were written in a more optimistic time.
Wait, do you mean Give Me Just One Night (parentheses Una Noche) by 98 Degrees? Because that would have been a flex, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that was the thought at the time. Look, this is the 2021 Blankie Awards Ceremony for Excellence in Films in 2020.
Thank you for finally using the full title, by the way. We never do it.
And also January of 2021 and also February of 2021 if we're going by the Oscars, which I don't think we are, but that's fine.
I'm not, but to each their own.
Yeah.
But also both of you guys are inarguably going to be, I would imagine, including movies that technically did not come out until 2021, right?
Sure. But I feel like that's the case every year, right? Where like there's always a few movies that like qualify under the gun at the end of the year and then release on their own time.
Yeah. I just feel like this year is a slightly more extreme example. I will say I've been spiraling all week for any number of reasons, but something about the marking a year since the last Blankie Awards, which was one of the last in-person records we ever did, and having to now commemorate pretty much a full year of not having movie-going culture. A year that has made me realize how much movie going is part of my love of dumb movies.
Yeah.
I found this challenging, and I'll tell you in a moment what I decided to do to frame this in a way that my brain could handle. This is, of course, Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
It's usually a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their career and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. And sometimes those checks clear and sometimes they bounce baby. But once a year, we get to pick the winners, much like Siskel and Ebert wearing tuxes in Disney World and asking people to applaud for how good their taste is.
Next year, let's wear tuxes. Let's wear tuxes next year.
I think that's the mistake we've been making.
Yeah.
Now, both of you work as film critics.
Yeah.
David, definitely. Me, I write about movies sometimes.
David Sims, of course, co-host of this podcast. Our dear friend Joe Reid, a.k.a. Reading Rain Joe.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Is joining us for the 5th consecutive Blankie Awards.
Is this the 5th or the 6th? It's the 6th.
It's the 6th.
Yeah.
Wait, this is the 6th?
Yeah.
Wow, because this is starting our 7th year?
Exactly. That's the thing. It's starting our 7th year.
Yeah.
The day we're recording this is the day after the 6th anniversary of our first episode being released.
Correct.
Happy anniversary, guys. A fine 6 years, if I do say so.
Now, look, this is a silly thing of fun and games where we just get to have a nice time picking the things that we like, right?
Yes.
But I was looking at many things, and one of them was my list of movies, little iPhone note that I keep every year when I transitioned out of keeping a text edit note, right?
Sure.
I watched 40 some odd new release films in 2020, which
That's
is
not bad.
Far and away the smallest number I've probably watched since mid-single digits.
Right.
I dragged my dad to see a movie almost every single weekend, you know? And including things I rented on VHS and whatever in the 90s. I truly don't know the last time I watched this few new release movies. Obviously, the things I had to watch for this podcast dominated my movie watching.
Sure.
Along with things I had to watch for other people's podcasts and stuff. And also just me rewatching and comfort watching shit and watching a lot more TV than I usually do. I think largely because every time there was a real movie, quote unquote, that was available to stream at home, it depressed me that my option was now watching it at home.
That's how you'd have to see it.
You talked about this.
I talked about this a lot. But I bring this up now because I avoided watching so many of the Oscar-y movies for as long as I could because I was just so bummed out by this reality. And then the second note is I just felt like I couldn't handle most of them. In one way or another, it's like it demands too much focus for me. It's dealing with a subject matter that I am just not at a mental strength to deal with or what have you. That I had this list that was like a mishmash of like the couple of Oscar-y movies I watched and a bunch of weird shit that I'm now upping to awards level because it's what I watched to get me through the year. And then it felt odd that I was even including the 3 or 4 Oscar-y movies I did watch and excluding the 10 to 12 that I didn't watch, that I just decided, here's my Blankie Awards for the year. I'm not nominating anything that was nominated for an Academy Award.
It's all out.
It's all fucking out.
Working without a net.
Yeah.
Here's my question. And this is just out of interest. What are the Oscar movies that you're kicking off the ballot? That's what I'm just out of pure interest. Like, what are the few you saw? Yes.
Almost everything. I mean, there's so many things I watched. Like, I watched Mank, but I watched it probably in like 5 installments. I watched Mank the way most people watch the Snyder Cut.
Right.
And
I was about to make a Snyder Cut joke.
It never really pulled me in, but I can't judge whether that's an objective issue with the movie or my opinion of it or anything. I could not fucking deal with Nomadland. I cannot believe that is the best picture front runner. There is no movie that touches on all the things that I'm already fucking freaking out about that society has revealed in this last year in terms of our priorities and lack thereof in how we fucking throw people out. Like, what else? I don't know. I mean, it's just like so many of them I just didn't even try, you know, or watched half of, or watched in a bad form. And I just was like, you know what? I'm only including the fucking things that reached out and grabbed me from the small pool of the things I happen to watch, which is like comfort food getting elevated and the few movies that cut through for me that I was able to handle.
Here's my question. Another question.
Yeah.
Defy Bloods, which is a movie I know you liked.
Yeah.
And we'll get into this as we're going to start the categories in a second.
Yeah.
But that got nominated for 1 Oscar.
Correct.
Best score.
Yeah.
Does that kick it off your ballot?
No, I decided if
like a little bit, you're okay with.
Yeah, I'm fine with a little bit. But those are my rules.
I get it though. Like it is. There was a you know a twinge of bummer to watching all of these movies at home. Almost everything you'd rather watch in a theater. For whatever reason, I think part of it is also because like at the end of the year with Oscar time, I being one of those cretins who gets screeners, I'm more used to just sort of like binging shit on screeners at the end of the year because that's how I got to get it done. So it was less of a change for me to just be like, well, I'm just going to watch whatever's on Netflix and what's on, Hulu, and then whatnot.
I have had a few transcendent at-home viewing experiences this year, but it is a few. Yeah, is my opinion on this.
You're going to hear that reflected in my top 5 movies of the year, and then I have 5 other movies.
Yeah,
because I'm looking at my top 10, and 2, 3, 4 of them are movies I saw at home. 6 of them are not. Nice. And then others in my top sort of 25-ish are movies. Yeah, it's mostly movies that I did not see at home, or if I did see them at home, you have that thing where you're kind of like, well, I know how much this would have hit me. Yeah. You have to do the sort of like, the value add, even if you're like, you know what, I zoned out a little bit during this, but I know in that give this thing its best circumstances, it would have worked even better for me. Maybe it can someday soon.
Look,
right.
I also found that like the 8 movies I saw in theaters that were released in 2020 before theaters shut down happened to make a big appearance in multiple categories. Unsurprisingly, those movies have lingered with me a little bit more. Perhaps they're getting a big theatrical bump. You guys had the benefit of getting to see a lot of these movies at festivals projected properly. Correct. Right. So a lot of the things that ended up playing big at the end of the year. I also felt like things I watched earlier in the pandemic have hit harder for me and lingered harder for me versus now when I just like can't handle anything anymore and I'm so depressed because like when I was watching shit go straight to Hulu and Netflix and VOD and whatever in May, I'd be like, okay, but when are theaters going to be back to normal? September, and then to just have it be like, no, this is the full year, just depressed me to no end. But I just felt like if I'm going to nominate Eurovision in as many categories as I'm prepared to, I don't want to have to constantly explain to people why 18 movies are left off in those categories. I don't think you need
to explain at all.
These are your picks.
That's fair.
Yeah.
These are Griff's picks. It's been a year.
Yeah. It's been a year.
Capital A, capital
year.
Y, year.
Yes.
I do think this year's Oscar nominations, if you just kind of like print them out on a piece of paper and you look at them, you're like, oh, these are all right. Oh, they did an okay job.
I think they're actually pretty good.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, I think this whole season has been a huge bummer. The fact that the Oscars are still a month away.
Insane.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, what are we talking about anymore? Like, what, like, what is the, I know why they made the decision they made.
I get why they did it, and I can't quibble with it, especially because when they made that decision, they were still holding out hope that like at some point we're going to be able to release the studio movies of the year.
Yes. Yeah, West Side Story. We'll make
Dune,
some room for it.
Like
that kind of stuff.
That's not till the end of December. Surely by the end of December, because they made this decision in like June or whatever.
Right. I think their strategy was theaters will essentially return to normal by like September, right? And then you're going to have the backlog of all the blockbusters that need to come out. Right. So that's going to take up the space that would have been year-end award shit. Yeah. Only the movies that have commercial crossover potential, like Dune and West Side Story will open then, and then everything else is just going to open January and February, and that's just going to be the time shifted award season because fucking Wonder Woman and Ghostbusters Afterlife and whatever had to like rule the multiplexes of the fall. And instead everything sucks. Everything's bad.
What's wild about this though is so like this will be the latest Oscar ceremony beyond like whatever, like maybe those first few that weren't even held in the spring, like those first few Oscars or whatever that like encompassed 2 years at a time or whatever. But this will be the latest into April that it's been pretty much since they set the Oscar timeline. But it's not by much. Like the Oscars used to be in April kind of a lot. And it's so funny to think about that now. And it's just like, I mean, whatever, like media was very different. We were less saturated by things, whatever, but it just does seem endless. It just does seem.
Yes.
We're still a full month away as we record this episode from the Oscars is mind boggling.
And also next year's Oscars are going to be weird because it's going to feel odd discounting like the first 3 months of the year entirely, even though movies from the first 3 months of the year usually don't make much of an impact.
Always get discounted. Right.
But it's odd to just be like, well, the beginning of this year was truly and purely just the Oscar movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
From the previous year's qualifications. Shall we dive in, boys?
Let's dive in, Griffin. We usually start with supporting a support. Which support should we do?
Let's do supporting actress first because I'm gonna make a game time decision on the 5th position for supporting actor.
That's fair. Supporting actress. We are here to announce our picks for best supporting actress in the movies of 2020, whatever. Yes, I don't know why I'm doing all this wind up. I'll just do mine first. I feel like I'm actually close to. I'm 3 out of 5 with the Oscars on this one.
Okay.
Which is not going to be true with a lot of them, probably, but whatever. Yeah. So I have Maria Bakalova from Borat, subsequent movie film. Amanda Seyfried from Mank. Yoon Yoo-jung from Minari. And then I have Candice Bergen from Let Them All Talk. And Gina Rodriguez from Kajillionaire. I want to say that this is the hardest category for me this year. There's not a lot of performances I really love in this category this year. I love these performances. And this has been the category where I most have just kind of like swapped in names and been like, does that look right? I don't know. Does that look right? Yeah. Those are my nominees.
I have a lot of really strong runners up, and I'll wait till everybody does theirs before I maybe talk about those a little bit.
Yeah, you go next though, Joe.
Okay. So mine are, now it's funny because the list I have in front of me is not in alphabetical order, so I'm alphabetizing on the fly. So if I screw it up, listeners, make sure you let me hear about it.
A flex.
Jane Addams in She Dies Tomorrow. Shireen Alvarez in St. Francis. Candice Bergen in Let Them All Talk. Amanda Seyfried in Mank, and Yoon Yoo-jung in Minari.
Can I just say, I'm really happy about what's about to happen.
Oh, good.
I'm sure I know, but go ahead.
Yeah, I suspect.
I think anyone can predict it. If anything, the only surprising element is that I'm the one going last with what's about to happen.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Whereas I think most people predicted I'd be leading the charge.
Exactly.
Right. I do want to say, similarly to what you guys are talking about, this was a category where like I landed on a 5 I felt good about, but I had very few alts.
I really also, yeah.
Right. Yeah. In the beginning of the year, I just start my iPhone note, and anytime I see a performance that jumps out to me, I put it on the list, even if I think it's probably not going to survive a year later. Right.
Yep.
And I mentioned that because this first pick is going to have you flummoxed. But when I saw this in a theater in the first 2 months of the year, I went, yeah, that's the first thing I saw that could qualify. And I did not see 5 other performances that I felt could push it out since then.
Now I gotta know.
Yeah.
Ready?
Know.
You're going to be flummoxed by this.
Okay.
Best supporting actress. Miranda Otto in Downhill.
She was one of my runners
she's
up.
good.
She's fucking
so
great in
funny.
that movie.
She's so funny in that movie. I love her in that movie.
And one of the only elements that argues for Force Majeure being remade in the first place because it feels like someone doing something fundamentally different and interesting.
I love her in that movie. I'm so glad you made that pick.
Here's my only problem with that pick, Griffin.
Yeah.
I'm seeing here that Downhill was released 400 years ago, so I don't really know what you're talking about.
I truly am going just off the notes app here. I would tell you from memory the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Toni Collette, I'm thinking of ending things. Talia Ryder, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always.
Yeah, that would be my runner-up.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Birds of Prey.
Nice.
And Candace, LeBron, James, Bergen. Let them all talk, score in fucking buckets.
Yep, that's the right call. That she's the one for all of us. Yep,
she's the one.
I'm doing moves.
Look, in terms of alts, there were some stretches. There were some things like Kajillionaire is one I actually tried to cram in where I'm like, I feel like I could watch that and enjoy that, and I probably would get a good couple acting nominations out of that, and I resent myself for prioritizing trying to watch Nomadland.
I think Kajillionaire might have fucked you up. I'm going to be honest with you. Yes.
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list.
It has that Miranda July thing where an hour in, she's like, this movie's actually about how we're all afraid of dying. And I'm like, okay.
But
Okay,
look,
Miranda.
Look, I mean,
right
I'm about to put the Charlie Kaufman movie in almost every single category. It's not like I didn't nominate some movies that fucked me up, but there's a specific type of fuck me up that I could handle.
Yeah, it's possible that it would click with you in a really nice way. It's just also possible it might have, freaked you out. I have no idea.
Who knows?
It's that Miranda July thing where you're kind of like, whoa,
Where She Dies Tomorrow, I knew I couldn't handle.
Oh, no.
Me too.
I'm almost regretful that I watched it because it really, really fucked me up, but it's good. It's really good.
It sounds in my wheelhouse. I would love to go fucking submit myself to seeing that in a theater where I can fully focus on it.
Wait till you're constitutionally able to. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
But Jane Addams, Jane Addams is an actress who doesn't always work for me. She does a very specific kind of thing that sometimes it's a little much for me, but it was perfect in this. So I really, really liked her in that. Griff, 2 of yours were on my runner-up list. I had both Miranda Otto and Toni Collette on my runners-up.
I feel so
I sort of tweeted yesterday because I was going through and I knew they weren't going to make it. And I was like, there are 4 actresses who give very specific kind of very almost out there performances in movies that I didn't really love. It was those 2, Essie Davis in The True History of the Kelly Gang, and Valerie Mahaffey in French Exit. And I was just like, well, all 4 of these women are doing fantastic work.
Here's my thing about Downhill. If you didn't know that movie was an adaptation of one of the most consequential and original movies of the decade, that movie would be straight up good. You would if that movie was just hey, here's this kind of dramedy with Will Ferrell and Julia Louis, and they're coming apart, and it's and you watch it and you're like, shit, this is well acted. This is kind of spare. Miranda Otto, comes in and throws heat for 10 minutes. I like this.
Yeah,
it's I can't separate it from the movie. It's being you can't make me.
You can't.
But if I could, I think I would really like Downhill. Instead, I thought it was okay, but of a bit of an odd thing to exist.
It's one of those things where it's like, oh, that would be fascinating as a broad comedy with 2 movie stars based on nothing, right? Versus
in 2020, maybe not in 1978, but in 2020.
Right, that's the thing. It feels more like what qualified as a broad comedy in the early 70s where people were like, man, what if comedies made you sad?
Yeah, right.
Didn't have a lot of jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
I just remember walking out of Downhill at the AMC Kips Bay. No idea how good I had it.
Oh, yeah. I saw that thing at the Grove in LA, and I was just I'm always my happiest when I'm at the Grove in LA. I'm basic as hell, but that's me. And again, I had no idea how good I had it.
Right. This couple walking out was just like, Well, it like wasn't really that funny, but it also wasn't really that serious. It was just kind of like real life. And I'm like, I would be citing all of that as a positive were it not based off force majeure, which is the issue. But she's really good. And then I also just think she's the glimpse of the best version of an American force majeure, which is owning its lane as being more of a broad performative character comedy.
Right. Dialed higher, which is what it should be.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it. We've said it on this podcast. The big problem with that movie, and I like Will Ferrell, and I like him trying things like this, is that I believe that Will Ferrell would run away from an ambulance.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes.
And
yes.
I can't get over the movie being shocked by that.
Yeah,
like,
you expect that to happen.
There's nothing shocking about it, which means that if Will Ferrell is Will Ferrell at the beginning of the movie, by the end of the movie, he needs to go bigger than he's ever gone in his entire
Right. He
life.
needs to be like nuclear explosion Will Ferrell, and obviously the movie is not interested in that. It's funny how much we're talking about downhill.
Yeah,
it is.
But that's fine. So Griff, I'm assuming you put Bakalova in lead, which is fine, obviously. Or is Borat not allowed because Borat actually scored multiple big nominations?
Yeah, it was a tweener for me, but I will say Bakalova, I feel very strongly, is a lead performance, and she would have been my lead winner. I think that is the second best performance I've seen all year, but and look, I am all for her being in supporting. I don't think she could have gotten nominated in lead. I think she's going to win. I predicted this to you. I put it on the record. Going to put it on the record on this record. But I just decided it was too validated for me to nominate, even if I did the swap of a different category.
Surprisingly validated. There's no question, or maybe not that surprisingly, but because it is a really good performance. Candace, look. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say about Bakalova quickly. Just the complexity of what she's doing in the Giuliani scene is mind-boggling to me, because she has to actually convincingly sell this guy who admittedly is easily duped, right? That she's
what are you talking about? America's Mayor?
That she's a serious interviewer, right? And keep him there with the risk, obviously, the danger she knows she's getting into being alone in a room with this guy, even with a camera crew right outside the door. Who knows what the fuck this guy is going to do if he thinks he's alone? Right. But the fact that throughout all of that, she is somehow simultaneously playing to the camera that she is sad that she has to do this, that her father has put her in this position.
Yes,
the emotional arc, the continuity of the character
she
up
has
until
to
that
play
point.
The meta text and the text at the same time. Yes.
And she can't overplay the meta text, because if she does, she'll flag Giuliani. It's just like, I that is such a skill piece to me. I think she's incredible. She would have been my best actress winner, but I disqualified her.
First Bulgarian acting nominee in the history of the Oscars.
Not bad.
About fucking time.
Possibly the first Bulgarian nominee, period. Just want to point that out. Maria, so all right, so we all nominated one person who is
Let's talk about LeBron
Bergen.
Buckets Bergen.
Candace Bergen in Let Them All Talk, a movie that is uniformly well acted, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree with that.
Almost did a double nom with Weist. She was kind of my only serious alt.
Weist was a high runner-up for me as well. Yeah.
Diane Weist, who's one of the queens of my spreadsheet, like over the years, almost snuck in.
Ditto.
Really good performance from her. I actually like Gemma Chan in that movie a lot. I like everything about that movie.
Yeah, Gemma Chan's great in that movie. Yeah.
But Bergen is just outrageous, and it has so much pathos, and and it's also, you're just kind of like, you give her enough rope, she'll fucking, it's incredible. Like, she never gets
That's
to do
my
this.
thing.
She carries so much of the narrative of that movie, so much more than you'd expect, because you initially think it's just going to be like, it's Meryl's movie and these are her friends, and we've sort of cast this thing very well. But yeah, no, she shoulders a lot in that movie.
I mean, in a way, it's like Christopher Walken in Catch Me If You Can, where you're just like, oh, it's nice to see someone hand this actor such a juicy piece of meat again. It's not like we haven't seen her in a while, but it's like no one's given her this much in so long. The real estate in the movie, the depths of what she has to play, the specificity of the character, and she does still score pretty much every single laugh line. Yeah. She's just one of those people who
every bucket, one might say.
Yeah, she gets buckets. She gets buckets from midcourt.
The funny thing, I talked about this on my own podcast last week, I think. But the whole thing about Let Them All Talk and the fact that Warner Brothers, at some point, probably before the whole pandemic happened, just decided that this was not going to be an awards movie for them, and they were not going to, like, it was not on their radar for that.
Yeah.
But the fact that they never recalibrated once the pandemic happened and everything shifted to streaming, and didn't really know what they had on their hands.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to me that they just didn't campaign it at all. The fact that, like, they couldn't get a Golden Globe nomination for Meryl Streep in a well-received comedy where she's in the lead role, like, that's insane to me. Like, the fact that they couldn't, like, drum up some kind of, I don't know if Bergen would have gotten an Oscar nomination, but she certainly would have been a contender. She's a big Hollywood fucking loves her. Yeah. And it's a great story. It's a great sort of, like, comeback story for her in movies, at least. And it felt to me, and Warner Brothers had their own, litany of decisions that they made this year and whatever, but, like, that to me is so strange that they just fundamentally didn't know what they had on their hands with that movie.
Okay, and this is a new category, actually, for 2021. This is a new category for the Blankie Awards, and it is most uncomfortable situation. I think this category is going to be a little bit awkward, okay? Man, if you thought some of those situations they got into on The Office, NBC's The Office, were uncomfortable, wait until you hear this category, okay? And the nominees are being crammed in the middle seat of a plane. What about that, right? How about talking to a coworker who has food in their teeth? Oh, very uncomfortable. Next nominee, of course, unexpected visits from a partner's family. Let's see, the fourth nominee, Green Book, winning Best Picture at the Oscars. And wait a second, this is bizarre. The fifth nomination is a non-nomination. The spot is taken to point out that Purple Mattress is not nominated, because with Purple Mattresses, you're never going to find yourself in an uncomfortable situation. This is chaos. I've never seen anything like this before. But I guess the rules are out the window. They don't apply Warren Beatty style, because Purple is comfort reinvented. Only Purple has the grid. The grid is in quotes, so I felt the need to put a little spin on my read of the grid. I couldn't just say it like it's a normal thing. It has to be the grid, which is, we all know, a stretchy gel material that's amazingly supportive for your back and legs while cushioning your shoulders, neck, and hips. I don't know how it does it. I look at the grid like a early 2010s Sarah Jessica Parker comedy. I don't know how she does it. It's just fantastic. And because of how it's designed, the grid doesn't trap air. Air actually circulates and flows through it, so you'll never overheat. And the grid bounces back as you move and shift, unlike memory foam. I should mention, there isn't like italics or quotes around memory foam. They're not asking me to put some stank on that one as well, but I feel the need to go memory foam, which remembers everything. Now that one is italicized and underlined. That's why memory foam has craters and divots. Has nooks and crannies like an English muffin. You don't want to sleep on an English muffin, okay? This is a thing that Purple sent me, okay? Because David got the Purple mattress. They only offered one. He's got it, and he's sleeping like a king. I'm sure he's getting the most consistent sleep of his entire life. Daddy Sims, doggy daddy Sims. But here's what I got. I got a little Purple mattress. They gave me a little Purple mattress in the mail. It's just the right size to put a RoboCop action figure on. And I will say RoboCop has never seemed more relaxed. He's getting a great night's sleep. So that's my personal testimonial from my experience with the product. Look, right now you can try your Purple mattress risk-free with free shipping and returns, and financing is available to do. So this is what you got to do, okay? Purple really is comfort for an uncomfortable world, to the extent that we're not even giving an award out for most uncomfortable moment. It's taken off the list. We're giving the award for most comfortable mattress to Purple instead, because we want to be the change we want to see in the world. Right now, you'll get 10% off any order of $200 or more if you go to purple.com/check10 and use promo code check10. That's purple.com/check10, promo code check10 for 10% off any order of $200 or more. Purple.com/check10, promo code check10. Terms apply.
You guys know what Soderbergh has on deck next, right? What he's shot.
Remind me.
Yeah, remind.
It's a thriller called No Sudden Move. Here's the logline. A group of criminals are brought together under mysterious circumstances and have to work together to uncover what's really going on when their job goes sideways. Okay, so already I'm like, Soderbergh's making that, probably going to be the greatest film ever made. Here's the cast.
Hard.
Brendan Fraser, Matt Damon, Benicio del Toro, Don Cheadle, John Hamm, Kieran Culkin, Ray Liotta, Bill Duke. I mean, I'm just like, let me at this thing. I can't be held responsible for my actions.
Amy Simons, Julia Fox. Did you say Benicio? Noah Jupe? The
Noah
king,
Jupe's
Noah
in there.
Jupe.
Noah Jupe coming to fucking shank the Tremblay in his sleep. You think you're the talented child actor?
Jupe scoring buckets on his own, I gotta tell you, and all of his stuff lately.
David, did you mention who wrote this movie?
No, wait a second. I may not know.
Ed motherfucking Solomon.
Ed Solomon wrote it. That's right. Come on. Come on. And that's another thing that HBO Max is probably just going to poop out in August.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So we'll be like, yo, this is a masterpiece. And they'll be like, huh? What was that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so can I ask how did this movie not become an awards player question about a movie I admittedly have not seen, but one of you just included on your list? How does French Exit not exist?
People did not like it. People thought it was really off-putting. Even people who liked it, like I pretty much liked it, but like it's really off-putting.
I just feel like every couple of years there's a new this might be Pfeiffer's comeback Oscar movie.
Right.
And every time it belly flops. And this one just felt like on paper, like, oh, that has to work for her, right? Especially in a pandemic year, that's like an easy nomination for her.
She's great in it. She's really great in it, but it's still that
people
thing
hate that movie. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, people. I remember when it premiered. It premiered at New York Film Festival, right, David? Am I mistaken?
That is correct. I believe it was the closing film, which is
right. And I just remember that night, like just everybody who I knew on my Twitter feed who watched it were just like 80-20, like despised it. And there were like it definitely had its supporters and its fans, but it makes you work for it. It makes you work to like it.
It's really hard to do a Whit Stillman movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, it's just really, really hard.
Yeah.
But I do also think there's the curse of Pfeiffer.
I like Jacobs.
I like Jacobs too. I really liked The Lovers.
The Lovers was really good.
I like that he makes kind of thorny, challenging comedies that you do have to work for. But yes, there is that weird Pfeiffer curse where it just feels like, she's doing a Stephen Frears period film. Fucking slam dunk, and then people are just like, Cherie gave me diarrhea out of here.
This is the Frears movie that we were going to erase from his record, even though the Oscars are like, Stephen Frears, we can get a nomination somewhere. We'll figure it out. Like they're going through their files.
We just covered White Oleander on my podcast recently, and that was another one where it's just like, she's so good in this movie. What more do you want? She's fantastic.
But that is a great point. That's essentially the start of the 20-year Pfeiffer Oscar curse. If at the beginning of the year people go, oh, this is a big Oscar play for Pfeiffer, it is fundamentally not going to be a big Oscar play for anybody.
Yeah.
That is absolutely correct. It'll happen someday, I have to imagine.
I just don't know what it will be.
It's
got to.
Quantumania.
Yeah, that'll be it. Yes. That'll be it. They'll give everything a nomination. It won't be just
Return of the
King.
King.
They'll shower it.
It'll be Return of the King. We have to recognize the trilogy.
Joe, we both nominated Yoon Yo-jung, which is one of those performances that is undeniable.
Haven't watched it.
It is much better than the sort of kooky, fun grandma role that it
very much so
presents itself to be.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, she keeps it on a level where you do sort of, I mean, the late, great Cloris Leachman, I do not want to slight, but you do sometimes sort of expect it to sort of get to a level of, like you said, like kooky grandma or whatever.
I'm sorry, are you talking about Cloris Michael Jordan Leachman?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Cloris, Kevin McHale, Leachman. Yes.
Wow.
May she rest. But yeah, no, it's so much of Minari sort of stays on this very sort of just like personal, emotional keel that a character like that could really throw off. And she's really dialed into it while still being really interesting and really compelling and really like lovable but spiky. Like my favorite character type. Are you lovable but spiky? Oh my, like I absolutely love you. And yeah, it's one of my favorite Oscar nominations this year. It was one of those things where I first saw the movie, I'm like, I'm going to have to be so obnoxious about how she deserves an Oscar nomination, but it's never going to happen because XYZ. And I'm so glad.
I mean, like with The Farewell, like that usually gets ignored. There's the narrative of like, this is a really accomplished actress from her home country, you know, and people are like, oh yeah, she'll come seventh, you know, like, you know, it's usually like just kind of like on the outside. And maybe this year just because of the circumstances of the year, but also it's just a special performance. And Minari kind of hit at the right time.
Yep.
All right, we should move on. But Griff, is there anything left in your ballot you wanted to shout out? I'm trying to remember.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Birds of Prey, I feel like is
she's good. I mean,
it's really good, but
good.
it's an actor choosing to play a legitimate superhero role like the hockey pads guy from the beginning of The Dark Knight, right?
Right. Yes.
Which I find is so fun. I just like the framing of that character. I think the writing of that character is really good. That's the best that movie has to offer for me. Never, rarely, sometimes, always the performances are really good in that movie. I'll speak about it again. And Toni Collette, I'm thinking of Ending Things. That's a movie that I look at with all four of those performances where I'm like, this would just be so much fucking fun to act. The fact that it's just four people and then two people playing off each other, you know, and the Thulis and Collette performances are just so meaty in terms of the shifts they get to play and the sort of like, it feels like fun acting class exercise stuff in the best way in terms of just like making bizarre, strong, nightmarish choices in response to everything.
Yeah. I just wanted to throw out briefly before we move on, just because I know that like Shireen Alvarez in St. Francis, nobody's really talked about her this award season, so I didn't want to just throw her out. She plays the woman that the main character, Kelly O'Sullivan, is working for, who's having this like postpartum sort of like very hard time trying to deal with her kids. And so the main character comes and is, you know, sort of this like long-term babysitter au pair kind of situation. And she's just like, she is sort of what elevates that movie to me. I think it's a very well written and very funny movie and, you know, touching, but like her performance really elevates it to something special. She and Kelly O'Sullivan really have a great sort of one, you know, tete-a-tete kind of stuff and good relationship that builds and evolves. And I think she's just really wonderful. And there's some really like big scenes in that movie where she really has to like act this postpartum depression stuff in a way that really has to land with you. And I think she nails it.
That movie fucking rules. And
really good.
I assume it'll be more accessible at some point to watch, but it completely rules. It's an Oscilloscope movie. I don't know like what its sort of streaming status is right now, but it's so good. I might talk about it again later. My winner is Amanda Seyfried in Mank. Nerds.
I love her in that. Everybody talks about Nerds, but there's this one moment where Mank's in a car on the lot or whatever, and she just sort of like stops and she gets in and she just looks at him and she just goes Mank like that, and I'm just like, well, that's the funniest thing I've ever gotten.
That scene rules where he's like, please do me this favor, and she's like, I already did my exit.
I love her in that movie.
She's incredible in that movie. And
I think she's my number one as well.
Underrated because
she is.
People don't like Mank or people, whatever. I mean, probably because Mank, you know, tells too many truths. You know, this is going to be my new bit, is that
you're not prepared for Mank.
Yeah, Mank isn't popular enough because Mank keeps it too real.
Keeps it real, yeah. Even among people who don't like Mank, though, I think people mostly really like Seyfried's performance.
But like, if she wins an Oscar, which I don't think she will, but she certainly could.
She could.
Because it's sort of a weird, diffuse year.
Yeah.
People will shit on that Oscar. Like, they will be like, she kind of, whatever. It was like, you know, she kind of snuck in that. Griff, who's your winner?
My winner is Candice Bergen.
Yeah, well,
very supportable.
Much deserved.
Yeah.
All right, let's do supporting actor.
I did watch Mank. I just couldn't fully get into it. I watched it in
because
pieces.
he kept it too real. Yeah,
he kept it too real. Okay, supporting actor. David, please read your nominees.
My nominees are Dan Stevens in Eurovision.
I already love it.
The Story of Fire Saga. Glyn Turman in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Lucas Hedges in Let Them All Talk. Robert Pattinson in Tenet. And Orion Lee in First Cow. Those are the nominees.
I love it.
Joseph Reid.
All right. Mine are Daniel Kaluuya in Judas and the Black Messiah. Robert Pattinson in Tenet. Clark Peters in Da 5 Bloods. Paul Raci in Sound of Metal. And Mark Rylance in The Trial of the Chicago 7.
He is so good in that.
He's so good in that
Whatever
movie.
you think of that movie, he
He's so
absolutely, he shows up and
show.
he gives it.
Love
I agree, best in show.
My nominees for Best Supporting Actor are Matthew McFadyen in The Assistant.
Incredible performance.
Beautiful.
That's
beautiful
my
choice.
Clark Peters in Da 5 Bloods. Dan Stevens in Eurovision.
Nice.
For sure. Song of Fire and Ice. Peter Thewlis in I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
David Thewlis.
Jesus Christ, my brain is soup. David Thewlis in I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And Joe Pantoliano in Bad Boys for Life.
Oh, wow. There we have it.
Here's the thing, Griffin.
You're angry.
I'm angry it's not on my list.
You're angry.
Sort of,
I gotta admit, he was on the outskirts. There were a couple guys fighting for that fifth slot, and I put him in there because I wanted to make you angry.
Here's the thing: you've made me angry, but it's not just because you put him on and I didn't. I'm angry at myself because I feel like I kind of forgot about it. Now, obviously, the movie came out like 14 months ago.
David, it's the number one film of 2020. I don't understand.
It is
the last blockbuster.
I still walked out of that movie with a 5-minute Joey Pants rant.
We talked about
it's not exactly. And we talked about it after that. Yeah. I think we might have mentioned it on the podcast. So
Absolutely.
I'm a little mad at myself, but thank you for shouting, including him. Please.
Look, I've spent years nursing the wounds of anger from you remembering to include Condi Alexander for Patriots Day. So I feel like we're
a great
even
moment
now.
by me. Yes.
No, I think about that all the time.
No,
I know. I should have done that.
I know. She's so good in that movie.
She's so good now.
So those are the nominees. So I feel like we were all over the place. Did we share? There was no...
David, you and I shared Pattinson, and Griffin and I shared Clark Peters. I feel like that was
right. And David and I shared Dan Stevens.
Right.
Dan Stevens, who I made a manful effort to win, get him the win at the New York Film
I know,
Critics
you
Circle.
told me that.
Oh,
it bummed me out so much.
But that one didn't get a lot of traction. I think he's wonderful in that movie.
He is
one of the most surprisingly versatile actors ever, considering when he left Downton Abbey, I was like, why? So he can be 6th on the Henry Cavill call list? What does he think?
Yes.
He thinks he's going to get roles, and instead he has had an incredibly exciting and varied career, basically, since, leaving that cursed fucking mansion. They're making a sequel to the Downton Abbey movie now. You can never escape.
Well, also,
he escaped.
An example of a guy where you could announce that he is playing any role in any type of movie, and I would go, yeah, he could probably pull that off.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I see why he would do that. It just feels like he's a guy who likes a challenge, likes stretching himself, and has pretty much pulled off everything he's ever tried to do.
Listen, we all know what a masterpiece Beauty and the Beast was. So, granted.
But I was thinking about this. Objectively, I think he does his job well in that movie. It's hard to give him credit because I think the design of the Beast is so disastrous that no moment the character is on screen really works. But I think if you really try to think about only what he's doing, and especially if you look at behind the scenes photos of what the fuck he was wearing,
him in the pillow suit,
you gotta kind of give him the credit for that movie. And he's good at fucking everything he does.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it my background. Yeah, I love Dan Stevens. I love him in that movie. I think he's so funny.
Yeah, he's so funny.
What else? The Pattinson. Yeah, no, come on.
I'm glad I knew someone else would have Pattinson. I knew that I would have some company with that, and
he was close for me. He was close.
He's so much fun in that movie. I loved that movie a lot more than most people did. I had I always Tenet and Mank are the two movies where I say I had fun and everybody looks at me like I'm, I've got three heads. But like, I think Tenet is such a good time, and Pattinson is the most good time in that movie. He's just sort of a pleasure to watch.
He is. I agree with all of that. He's having fun. He's just at the movie. He's just like the spoonful of sugar the movie needs. You know what I mean? But also, it is an achingly beautiful performance.
Yes.
In my opinion, I think it's like a lovely performance.
It's a story about friendship.
He's playing a guy, who is in love with his partner, not in a, in a romantic way, but just in a like
it's real.
Moment.
The love is real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is excited to finally meet the man he's known for years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and there's just so much joy to it. And it's so funny to think about it, considering that Pattinson in interviews is like, I didn't really know what was going on in that one. Like, he's like, oh, I did what Chris told me, but like, whoa, because he's such a talented actor.
Yeah.
I think he's on my ballot like every year these days.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right to me. Yeah. Maybe
not every year, but like often. He's just such a delight.
He's wonderful.
And Hedges too. Hedges in Let Them All Talk is just that is a crazy. You throw that actor in to three super talented, middle-aged actresses who've done this shit for years. Soderbergh is like, look, the screenplay is you're on a boat and there's a lot of shit going on.
Right.
And go. Like no script. They're all improvising. Hedges has to do all this like giggling and physical stuff and like this sort of like, he's vulnerable and like that shit is hard. That is such an impressive performance.
There are moments in that movie where you can definitely see him being like, all right, what do I do? Like, what's next? But like everything else, but that's also part of the charm of the movie, I feel like. And also everything else, like you said, the movement and the, he's going dancing and he's sort of like the temperament of it is really, really good. He's so likable. He's just like so goddamn likable.
Griffin, who else did you have? Wait, go give me your list again, Griff. You had Stevens, obviously. You had
Clark Peters, The Five Bloods, who I think is quietly the heart of that movie. David Thewlis, Think of Ending Things. Pretty much everything I said about Toni Collette applies here. Matthew McFadden in The Assistant. David, I walked out of that movie. I think maybe the last new release film I saw in theaters, and I was texting you about how good he was in it. And I coined a phrase that I said I want to use this on the podcast when this comes up again. Thermostat performance.
Right. You remember you telling me this at the time. Yes. Yeah.
And actors single-handedly changing the temperature of the movie just with their acting alone. He's got one fucking set piece scene, one long two-person conversation towards the end of the movie that fundamentally changes the entire movie through just the energy he brings to it. It is very fascinating to me that this guy who has been around since Pride and Prejudice in American movies, or at least in movies that cross over. Right, exactly. It was known for TV and whatever. And it just was sort of like, I don't know, this guy never really found his spot. And it turns out he's fucking perfect at playing American corporate bootlickers.
Yeah.
The thing about it, right, is he was in this incredible British miniseries called Perfect Strangers. I think it's called Almost Strangers in America because they don't want it to remind you of the
Blankie associations.
Blankie,
Yeah.
If you ever can find it, it's probably on BritBox or one of these things. Really check it out. It's one of the most incredible pieces of drama ever filmed. And then he was on this TV show called Spooks, which is called MI5 in America. And that was his thing. It's like, this guy might be the next Bond. Like, this guy is Britain's next charming leading man. I'd seen him on the stage. He was in some movies and he's in Pride and Prejudice. He's playing Darcy, 20 years after Colin Firth. It's like, this guy has just been handed the role. Yeah. And that movie hits. He doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like it killed his career. He just hangs out in Britain doing mostly TV and stuff and theater and stuff. And then, as you say, the start of it is Anna Karenina.
I was just about to bring up Anna Karenina. I'm so glad you did. Yep.
As this sort of delightful drunk, and you're like, oh, that's Matthew McFadden, and he's kind of leaning into being a buffoon.
Yep.
This is interesting.
It's a great performance.
And then come a few years later, he's in Succession, and you're like, oh my God, and he's playing an American, and you're like, oh my God, he's incredible at this.
Yeah. You're forgetting something very important, David.
Please.
He did spend some time in the Four Realms.
He did go to the Four Realms. Right.
He's the dad in that movie?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Like, that's a perfect
how am I
example.
supposed to keep up this bit by knowing the plot?
There's 4 realms. That's a lot to keep up with.
But like that's
A lot of
the
balls to
exact
keep in the
type
air.
of thing it felt like his career was going to be relegated to.
Right. Yeah. You're an also ran in an also ran Disney movie. Yes.
The thing about
and
his
then,
performance in The Assistant, though, is like
Yeah.
it's like the baseline evil of like corporate whatever.
Yes.
Which is also what he plays in Succession. And it's obviously like 2 incredibly different takes on it. And in Succession, it's a comedy. And in this, it's like the movie is sort of this like low key drama, but his scene plays like an absolute horror movie. It's just like, it's 5 minutes of the most terrifying shit you've ever seen in an office. And
she's made it out of the, house in the horror movie scene, and a cop shows up and she's like, oh, thank God. Like, it's like the moment where she's like, I'm saved. And then the twist is like, oh, no, you're not. You've walked into the fire,
It's so good. And he does that solely through incredibly deft, subtle shifts in energy,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really
great.
skillful performance. Yeah.
It's great. He once, many years ago, I really loved him in this thing, Perfect Strangers, and then I liked Spooks. So I was like really into him when I was like 14 years old. This is a little embarrassing. And my mother interviewed him for whatever Spooks, airing on like A&E in America or whatever, like it was crossing over slightly, and he called my house and I picked up the phone.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, hello, like, is blah there? And I was like, oh no, like, let me go get her. Like, he's like, it's Matthew, and I had like a 2-minute conversation with him, and he was so nice.
Oh, that's so wonderful. What a great story.
14-year-old David.
I love that.
Anyway, seems like a nice enough guy.
I
am so
have
happy
Kaluuya.
he's now just kicking ass on the #1 show in America.
Oh, yeah.
In the exact kind of part you would never think to cast him in.
Never. You would never be like, oh, this guy can play a Midwestern, as you say, like, try-hard bootlicker. Yeah, he's so good. He's so funny.
Good.
Realizing that I loved that show was very much realizing that I loved what he was doing with that performance, because it takes you a second to just be like, what are you going for here? And then it clicks and it's amazing.
Weirdly, he figured out the show before it feels like the show figured out itself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Right. In those early episodes, he's dialed a little higher and the show gets there quickly, but not. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Is he your winner, Griff?
I feel like he is. Let me look at this again. Yeah, I kind of feel like I have to give it to McFadden. It's just such a skill piece for me.
It's fantastic.
Joe, who else did you have?
So I was going to say, I have Kaluuya in supporting. I know there's a lot of discussion about the actors in Judas and the Black Messiah and whether they belong in lead or supporting. I could see him in either way, and he sort of fit better on my supporting ballot. He is absent for a good 30-minute stretch of the back half of that movie.
I don't care on that one. And people are like, what, the movie has no lead character? I'm like, yeah, maybe.
Well, Stanfield to me seems egregious, but like, Kaluuya is very supportable.
I don't disagree in that. I think Stanfield is the lead of the movie. That's what that is the problem people have with that movie. They're like, why is that the lead character? Like, not that everyone has that problem, but like that is a criticism I've seen. So, but Kaluuya's first build. But that's because he's an Oscar nominee, like, and he's a star who's been in big movies. Like,
and he's playing the more famous person.
He's playing a historical figure. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he's fine in there. Like, obviously, he's going to win an Oscar. He's a very talented actor.
He's fantastic. Paul Raci, I think, is really fantastic, and an actor I had never heard of before or seen in anything, and is, very much sort of the emotional center, I think, of that movie, or at least like provides the emotional sort of like back and forth with Riz Ahmed in that film. And then Rylance, I mean, we said it right at the beginning, but just like Best in Show and Trial of Chicago 7 in a really strong cast. Griffin, I know you and I have talked about our differing opinions on who's good and who's bad in that movie, but he's so... He's a really good fit for Sorkin in a way that I don't know if I would have really expected exactly, but I would now need to see him in other Sorkin stuff.
Look, he's talked about. I mean, he's like wanted to work with Sorkin since Sports Night. He like reached out to Sorkin and was like, "I want to do something with you someday."
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm flipping this. What I'm about to say. Because I was confusing my thought I'm about to share. My brain is soup. I came close to putting Keaton in my 5.
Yes, because it's an unheralded performance.
Right.
Yeah.
It is just so small. It just felt like a little bit too small to qualify for me.
Yeah.
I don't really like that movie. I have watched his scenes probably 8 times.
His scenes are good. They're also the great Sorkin stuff where he's
That's
like,
the other
you didn't
thing.
see, I'm hitting the button here. You know, you didn't see this coming. And it's a little mini play that's
but it's
better.
Also,
yeah.
He's doing the tossed off thing that works better for Sorkin. It's like, I remember reading an interview with Jeff Daniels where he said, like, you just need to know the fucking language backwards and forwards so thoroughly that then you can just kind of toss everything off, dance on it, take whatever it is, but just like, you know, and I feel like Sacha Baron Cohen is a perfect example of someone who is playing the Sorkin of it too hard. I think that is underlined a bad performance. I am astonished that it became such an Oscar run.
I think it's also just he was going to get an acting nomination, and they love to do that moment to give you the nomination for the serious movie over the better performance in the comic movie,
right? Which they should have done. But I think Rylance is great in that movie. I think Keaton's great in that movie. The other person I consider putting in, I think Yahya Abdul-Mateen is great in that movie, and the fact that that character is so fucked by the Sorkin-ness of that movie and his decisions on how he wants to represent reality almost makes that performance more impressive to me, because it feels like he's working overtime to overcome the shafting of that character within the narrative, or you know, the actuality of how things played out.
Yeah.
I also just think that guy's a fucking star.
Yeah, he's great.
Okay, next category. This is also a new one for the 2021 Blankie Awards. This category is Best Way to Greet a Meal. The first nominee is Salutations, Rotten. Next nominee is Adios, Spoiled. This one, I'm looking at this next one here. It's Au revoir, Moldy. Au revoir, Moldy. I don't know why we included this category. It feels like a weird thing to put in our award show. Fourth nominee, Aloha, Garbage. This feels like this category is sort of rigged for whoever is the fifth nominee. Oh, it's Hello Fresh. That's what you should be saying to a meal, and especially what you should be saying to a meal kit delivery service. You want to be going, Hello Fresh! Because with Hello Fresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. HelloFresh lets you skip those trips to the grocery store, a hotbed of disease. And it makes home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit, okay? You might remember in the past, we've had Green Chef sponsor the show. A good meal kit delivery service that does not tell you how to greet it within its name. But you should know this. Green Chef is now owned by HelloFresh. And with a wider array of meal plans to choose from, there's something for everyone. If we're asking me, I personally love switching between the brands. It's my favorite thing, is just switching between those brands. And now my listeners can enjoy both brands at a discount with me. I'm inviting you to enjoy both brands at a discount with me, okay? Because HelloFresh cuts out stressful meal planning and grocery store trips so you can enjoy cooking instead of hating it, and get dinner on the table in about 30 minutes or less rather than 6 hours or more. You got 25 plus recipes to choose from each week. There's something for everyone to enjoy. The recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. And over 4 to 5 HelloFresh customers say HelloFresh helps them lead a healthier lifestyle with delicious, low-calorie, carb-smart, and vegetarian options available every week. Okay? It's fun. It's so easy to do that even a dummy like me can do it and eat better, okay? So why don't you say goodbye, Chef Boyardee, and say hello, Fresh? Because that's what I've been doing, okay? And it says here I should share my personal experience, like who I cook with. Nobody, alone. I live alone. What a miserable, lonely year it has been. Highlight how HelloFresh saves you time in those busy weeknights. I have almost nothing going on in my life, just an endless void. I'm looking for anything to take up time on my barren weeknights. Listen, I had to do a call to action here, and I need to read this verbatim. My hands are tied. Go to HelloFresh.com/blankcheck12 and use code blankcheck12 for 12 free meals, including free shipping. You get that? You're probably thrown off by the 12. What does 12 have to do with this podcast? It's the number of meals you're going to get. Go to HelloFresh.com/blankcheck12 and use code blankcheck12 for 12 free meals, including free shipping. It's America's #1 meal kit. And with all that having been said, let's open up the envelope and see who won. It's HelloFresh. It's HelloFresh, obviously. I want to say I do feel like this category was rigged.
David, you had Glyn Turman in Ma Rainey. He was one of my runners-up. I also had Coleman Domingo in Ma Rainey as a runner-up.
Also very good.
Both of them I thought were really, really fantastic.
I think Glyn Turman is my winner. He's my easy runaway winner. I think that's like a slept-on performance in a way, even though it was well-reviewed. I am a bit of an August Wilson slut. I don't know how to, I really love watching incredibly talented actors tackle his language. And that's why I really like the filmed versions of his movies, even when they are, filmed versions of excellent plays. Like, I think Ma Rainey is a really good, well-directed movie. Like, I think it's making a lot of interesting choices. What do you have to say? Sorry.
Well, I was basically what you just said, which is that I'm surprised how much I liked George C. Wolfe's direction of that. I was expecting a lot more of just like, I think he makes some really interesting camera choices in that. And I was impressed at the way that like he sort of built it out without being like, now we have to set a scene outside because you wouldn't see that in a play. You know what I mean? Like one of those kind of things. Right. I really thought he did a good job.
That I just think that performance is so sad and so tremendous. And I love him as an actor. He's my guy. Orion Lee's the only other guy on my list I haven't talked about. Just a great performance.
Great performance.
And Kelly Reichardt was trying to tell me about him when I interviewed her many, many moons ago. And she said, like, we're very different. He likes Shrek. That's how she put it to me. And I've never let that go in terms of like, did he mention Shrek?
Right. How did this come up?
Recall Shrek in how he wanted to do something in a scene? Was he like Shrek? Like, I just have always wanted to know.
This cow reminds me of Shrek, I think.
Yeah. When Shrek came up in their conversations, but he loves Shrek. He's great in that movie.
I mean,
like she gives him a direction and he's like, oh, like in Shrek. And she's like, yes, exactly.
Have I shared the anecdote about my day on set with her on Night Moves?
I can't remember. No. I mean, we've talked about it personally, but I'm not sure.
I'll just say this very quickly because it feels parallel to this and asking how is that the thing that lingered with her? She's, an intense, quiet, very focused person, right?
Right.
And she speaks in a way that is, kind of economic and sparse, much like you'd imagine from the person who makes those movies. She just knows exactly what she wants, and she's pretty direct about it. There was some line in the script where it's clearly this character, this manager of a sporting goods store that I played, is talking about Charlie Sheen. Like she just, wrote like a placeholder line of like, oh, they're talking about like People magazine shit, right?
Yeah.
And it's when Charlie Sheen was on his whole like winning thing. And she was like, we need more time, so can you just riff more on the Charlie Sheen thing? And she called cut in the middle of a take because I talked about him blowing his syndication money. And there was a level of disdain in her saying like, why would you even be talking about that?
There's no way your character would know about that.
But also that she resented that I as a person even had that in my mind to bring up.
Yeah, because I think she's this person who like moved to Oregon and like is kind of like, I don't want to think about all that crap.
Right.
I want to make it clear. A very sweet person. I had a lovely time with her. Incredible director, one of my favorite living directors. But it was just like the way she came up to me, it was just like, first of all, no way this guy would know that. Yeah. Second of all, why are you even bringing that into the picture? But yes, Orion Lee like Shrek.
Here, Joe, who's your winner? Did you say your winner? I'm sorry.
I didn't. I think mine is Kaluuya. I also want to shout out my big runner-up was Malachi Kirby in Mangrove, who I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk about Mangrove very much on the rest of this thing. But I just want to say he's really, really good.
He is.
In that film.
He is really, really good. That movie, I can't wait to watch all those again. I sort of watched them quickly. Oh, not all. I watched all the Lovers Rock long before, but then I watched the rest of them kind of quickly. But I just want to give you the Blankie's 10 supporting performers.
Oh, yeah. Because I could not find this. I've been looking for it for the last 15 minutes.
No, I have it. They have, just the 10 lead, 10 supporting. So their 10 supporting performers are Paul Raci in Sound of Metal, Amanda Seyfried in Mank, Yoon Yoo-jung in Minari, Maria Bakalova in Borat 2, Chadwick Boseman in Defy Bloods, great performance in my opinion. Orion Lee in First Cow, Pattinson in Tenet, Talia Ryder in Never Rarely Sometimes Always, Buckets Bergen in Let Them All Talk, and J.K. Simmons in Palm Springs, which is a performance I liked, but some people are really passionate about.
That's an interesting choice. I like that choice. Palm Springs was the last movie I saw in a theater.
What a good movie. I love that movie. What should we move to? Should we do the screenplays sort of quickly? Do we want to knock those out?
Let's knock those out.
Griff?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you my original screenplays. All right? Okay. You're going to sit there and take it. My original screenplay nominees are Sean Durkin for The Nest, Andy Ciara for Palm Springs, Kelly O'Sullivan for St. Francis, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, and Kleber Filho and Juliano Dornelles, and I apologize, my Portuguese is probably way off, for Bacurau. Those are my...
Oh, Bacurau. Good pick. Well, now that you've gone with the flex of naming all the writers like I should have when
I'm sorry. You don't have to. You don't have to. I just have my
No. This is good. The only one I actually didn't know off the top of my head was Andy Ciara for Palm Springs. He is one of my nominees, though. Also, Emerald Fennell, I think, right? Promising Young Woman.
Fennell.
Oh God, David Fincher's dad. What's his dad's name?
Jack
Fincher for Mank, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, and Kelly O'Sullivan for St. Francis.
Best original screenplay. Let Them All Talk.
Yep, Deborah Eisenberg.
Defy Bloods.
Rachel Bilson's dad. Spike Lee and Kevin Wilmot, and another guy, I forget his name now, and I feel bad because I literally interviewed them, but the other guy is dead. Anyway, yes, Paul DeMeo.
You're on the hook for this, by the way. You've set the standard. The assistant.
The assistant is Kitty Green, right? I think.
Correct.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Palm Springs.
Andy Ciara made all three.
The Way Back.
Oh, The Way Back. Who wrote The Way Back? The Way Back was written by Brad Inglesby, the writer of Out of the Furnace and Run All Night.
Two movies I think about constantly.
All right, you're going straight to adapted. Hit adapted.
We'll do it snake style, right? Then we'll go backwards from adapted.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's good. I like this.
Adapted. First Cow.
Yep. That's John Raymond and Kelly Reichardt.
Yes.
I'm thinking of Ending Things.
Charlie Kaufman.
The Invisible Man.
I love this pick.
Oh. Who wrote The Invisible
Man?
Lee
Wannell, baby.
Just Lee Wannell all by himself. Good job.
Nice.
Solo credit. I mean, this one, you're going to say who wrote it, but I think we're going to have to give this a little bit of a wink. The Old Guard.
The Old Guard, which is, I believe, is it solely credited to Greg Rucka?
It's solely credited to Rucka, but I read that comic and I saw that movie. And
I mean,
there was work done.
I think Gina collaborated with him is the nice way to put it. Yeah. You know, he was never excluded or whatever.
No. I'm just saying she doesn't get credit on that movie, and everything I like about that movie is the stuff that she's clearly adding that is not there in the book that he wrote. Yeah. And my fifth adapted screenplay nomination, The Trip to Greece.
I'm going to say it counts. Why not?
The Oscars does it that way. They run
it's
sequels
the
as
Borat
adapted.
rule, based on characters.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's
before
what I'm working on.
Sunset did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a good trip to Greece question on my last trivia night that I did that you guys would have gotten. I think I have confidence.
Yes.
I think you guys would have done well with it.
I think I find it odd that movie flew so under the radar, considering that for me, it's like, that's a perfect lockdown watch.
Yeah,
it is.
That is surprising. Nobody really talked about it. Yeah.
No, I think people got burned on Spain. I know a lot of people were really turned off by Spain, where I feel like people didn't even try this one. I mean, once again, the only
Spain's
thing
good though.
Spain's good. All four of them are good. Good. It's one of the most consistent film series ever. My only criticism of them is I wish I was watching the TV series, because my problem with those movies are I could watch them for 8 hours, and I hate that in England they get to watch them for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you could always
4 hours or whatever.
6, whatever it is.
Express VPN, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. The Assistant is adapted. Wait, is that or was that original? I'm losing my mind. I can't remember.
I put it in original. Am I wrong?
It is original.
That?
No, it is original.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I couldn't remember where things ended up. Okay, Joe, give me your adapteds.
My adapteds are First Cow, Jonathan Raymond and Kelly Reichardt. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Ruben Santiago Hudson. Nomadland, Chloe Zhao. One Night in Miami, Kemp Powers. And Unpregnant, which is credited to Jenny Hendricks, Ted Kaplan, Jennifer Caton Robinson, Rachel Lee Goldenberg, and Bill Parker.
A classic Joe pick.
I really, really loved that movie, and I'm surprised more people didn't talk about it.
Haven't seen it. I'm sure I would love that fucking thing.
I liked it on the level that I liked Booksmart, and I thought it should have gotten maybe a little bit of, a fraction of the love that Booksmart got, at least, and nobody really talked about it. I mean, it was HBO Max when HBO Max was launching, and nobody had it on Roku, and I didn't watch it for several weeks because I didn't have HBO Max on my Roku, and I get it, but it's really charming. Haley Lee Richardson's wonderful. The other her counterpart, Barbie Ferreira, who it's the first thing that I've ever seen her in. She's really good and funny in that, and it's it's a good funny road trip comedy with these two really funny and engaging girls, and I don't know, I thought it was pretty well written and queer positive in a way that I really liked, and
Can I throw out a hot take?
Yep,
throw it.
Maybe this was a weird year for movies.
You think so? What are you talking about? Are you talking about?
You talking about why that movie fell under the radar is oh, right. Yeah. This is the year that film culture ate itself and then turned into an inside out creature where the veins are on the outside.
We were subject to things like whether a platform had launched on Roku or not. Yeah. Yep.
Right. And a platform launching on the wrong day of the week.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's totally true.
Here are my adapted nominees. We got John Raymond and Kelly Reichardt for First Cow. We've got Charlie Kaufman from Thinking of Anything. We have Christopher Hampton and Florian Zeller for The Father. We have Simon Blackwell and Armando Iannucci for The Personal History of David Copperfield. And we have David Pryor for The Empty Man.
Which one was The Empty Man?
The Empty Man is a horror film starring James Badge Dale that was filmed in the fucking Eisenhower administration and was dumped during the pandemic by Disney.
It was a Fox movie that was given the same treatment as The New Mutants.
It's 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It is written and directed by a guy who did EPK for many years, including for David Fincher and for other people. It's based on a comic book, but has nothing to do with it except it shares the title, which the director thought was cool. And it is absolutely incredible. And I highly recommend it. And I think it has a lot of brilliant ideas running through it in the screenplay, especially, but it's also gorgeous.
Some outlet just ran a story about the weird cult of the Empty Man. Yes.
Dan Jackson was one of the first to jump on it. I'm sad that I'm on paternity leave because I would try to be all over this fucking thing.
This poster's scaring the shit out of me as it is, so like I already really want to see it.
It's scary. It's scary in a good way. Where it's
is it on
unsettling.
A streaming platform or is it like VOD?
You got to buy it or rent it.
You got to buy it.
I'll do it. But
it was like New Mutants, like the first movies pushed to the front line when theaters were reopening. Right. It was just like, oh, this thing must be garbage, right? And then David 2 months ago was like, people are telling me The Empty Man is good.
A couple people started banging the drum. Adam Naiman, I think, Sean Fennessy, a couple, I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll check it out. Checked it out, and I was like, well, this is straight up good. Like, whoa, okay. Nice. And then I read one interview with the guy, and I was like, oh, this guy put a lot of care into this movie. And Disney was like, I'm seeing we own something called The Empty Man. I don't know what that is. Like,
why don't we put it in the empty theaters? Fuck off. David, right before we started recording, you said that you were like, I haven't seen David Copperfield in like 15 months. I was between putting that in or putting in something really, really chaotic.
No.
Can you tell us what the chaotic pick would have been?
The Empty Man was the chaotic pick. I decided to include David Copperfield as well and kick out Nomadland, which I don't think the screenplay is the thing about it. Mm-hmm. I do think it's an interesting work of adaptation that she's taking a nonfiction work, but like, I don't I was like, it's okay. Chloe Zhao is doing fine. She doesn't need my screenplay nomination. My winner is I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is an adaptation of a book I did not like, that I think did all kinds of incredible work with its concept. I know not everyone agrees with that. That's obviously a very divisive movie.
Yeah.
But obviously I love First Cow. I think that's beautifully written. And The Father, which is adapted from a play, is one of the greatest pieces of play to screen adaptation that I've seen in a long time.
Oh, wow. That's high praise.
Yes.
The Father.
David, my winner is also I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I agree with everything you just said. I also feel like Charlie Kaufman is the only person who makes movies the way my dreams feel, in a way that I find very cathartic to watch. I think people who are not riddled with panic, stress nightmares all the time perhaps find his films alienating. Right. But I just am so on the wavelength of what that movie is doing with regards to logic.
My original winner is The Nest, Sean Durkin's The Nest, one of my favorite movies this year. That is an incredible piece of, I think it's a work of memoir. Like, I think it's about his life, but his childhood especially. But like, it is, I think, a wonderfully written movie. But Palm Springs is kind of right behind there. And then that's just kind of a slam dunk screenplay. Like, it's such a good idea. Not to do a time loop movie, but to do a time loop movie as this metaphor for marriage, for taking the plunge on a big relationship. Yeah. And it just nails the metaphor so exactly. And it's funny. And it's
very funny.
Cleverly constructed and,
good all characters. That. Yeah. Did you say your adapted winner, Joe?
Oh, no, but mine is First Cow. Adapted was a lot thinner of a category for me than original this year, I think.
Ditto.
I think in any year where like none of the big studio movies come out is always going to be thinner and adapted because that's where you get most of your adapteds. But it's just a really lovely story, and I think it's told really well. My original winner is probably Minari. David, you've already made me regretful that I didn't put The Nest in my nominees, because you're right, The Nest is really fantastic. But like, it's a strong set of nominees. I probably could have named up to 10, but like Palm Springs, as you said, super funny. I think St. Francis is really well observed. I think Mank. I like Mank as much as I do because it's about so many more things than I thought it was going to be about. And I like the way it sort of meanders around to those kind of things, California politics and yada, yada, yada. And Promising Young Women, which I think is more of a directing triumph than a screenplay triumph, but I think the ideas it has going on to me are very intriguing. And I think it's, earns its spot on my list because of that.
That you said it's more of a directing triumph than a screenplay triumph for you?
Yeah, I think what I love most about this movie, and what sort of like took me a second to come around on, is the audacity of it, and sort of just like the willingness to sort of go to the places that it goes, especially by the end, and sort of leave you on the note that it leaves you. And Yeah, I think, and just sort of the way that it, styles its environment and sort of like lures you into certain things, and the way that the pacing of like the Mulligan-Bo Burnham relationship sort of rope-a-dopes you in. And yeah, I think it's a really well-directed movie.
See, I disqualified Promising Young Woman for my stupid reasons, but I had the exact opposite takeaway.
Yeah.
I like that movie. It would have been in contention in a couple categories for me, but I think it is far more successful as a screenplay than it is a piece of directing for me. But potatoes.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Fennell. I just wanted to say that. Sorry. I'm going to give you the Blankie choices. In original screenplay, the Blankies chose Palm Springs, The Five Bloods, Minari, Never Rarely, Sometimes Always, and Promising Young Woman. And in adapted, they chose First Cow, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Nomadland, One Night in Miami, and Emma, which is a very nice screenplay, in my opinion. Yes. Very good piece of adaptation.
I should say Defy Bloods is my winner for original screenplay. I think Spike Lee has now tapped into this really interesting thing of, what if I take a script that's just sort of like on the shelf at a studio and put my shit on top of it?
Correct.
I like that he's made 2 movies in a row that kind of have like more sort of like obvious studio genre origins.
Yeah.
And has then been able to take this really kind of sturdy kind of like a populist base and put all of his as a framework for all of his ideas and thoughts and formal experimentations. And I think that's an incredible script.
I really do want to plug. I rarely plug my writing, but just check out my interview with Spike
that's an
Lee,
incredible interview.
Kevin Wilmot, and Danny Bilson. Not because of what I did, just because the 3 of them talking was just interesting.
That's the other thing I was going to say. The process of that script coming into the form we've seen is fascinating.
Because this is the whole thing. I just assumed it was, as you said, they dusted off this screenplay that was Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo had written, that Oliver Stone was going to direct, and then just sort of languished. And so I figured that Bilson had nothing to do with the movie. And when Netflix was like, hey, do you want to talk to all of them at the same time? I was like, oh, they're into that? And then it was just this incredibly sweet, especially since one of the writers is dead, thing of Bilson being like, Spike, when you did this, I had never thought about like adding that element in. And it was so cool that you had that idea. And Spike Lee's like, yeah, but you had this in there. Like they were all just being very nice to each other about all of their contributions.
But it's the argument for like getting outside eyes and fresh eyes and stuff. Like it's like Spike never could have come up with, I don't think he would have come up with that movie on his own.
Whole cloth,
the stuff
he
adds to it, they never would have gotten to themselves.
Right, exactly. So it was just very interesting. That movie, that sort of the thing about it is like, I think the screenplay is kind of insane and a mess, but in a good way.
I love
that
movie.
About
it, baby.
All right, okay. I want to move us on to lead acting. Which one do you want to do first?
Let's do actress first, because we did supporting actress first.
That's good. Fine. I will give you my lead actors. So we've got, here they are. Are you ready? Sydney Flanagan in Never Rarely, Sometimes Always. Julia Garner in The Assistant. Han Ye-ri in Minari. Carrie Coon in The Nest. Sorry, I can't resist doing that every time. And Jessie Buckley in I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Thanks. Mine, my 5th slot is still up in the air, and we're just going to see where I get to when I get to my 5th name. But the first 4 are
real Griff style there.
Yeah, I'm flying without a net here. Carrie Coon in The Nest. Sorry, David. Nest.
Nest.
Julia Garner in The Assistant. Frances McDormand in Nomadland. Carey Mulligan in Promising Young Woman. And I think I'm going to go with Haley Bennett in Swallow. I keep trying to say Shallow. It's not Shallow. It's Swallow.
Good movie.
Edging out Elizabeth Moss in The Invisible Man, who I loved. And I loved that
I'll
movie.
say my 5 starts with Elizabeth Moss, The Invisible Man.
She's so good.
Then I'm going to go to the only performer shared by all 3 of us, Julia Garner in The Assistant.
Very good.
Jessie Buckley, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Sydney Flanagan, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. And Rachel McAdams, Eurovision, motherfuckers.
Certainly in my top 10 for that category. Yeah, definitely. Kristen Milioti also close. Yes.
Close as well. Yes. That's look, no one is more astonished to have liked Eurovision that much. But one of the many things that film does right is that it is her movie.
Yeah.
It is so fundamentally her movie. Not only does she have more screen time, but she is the one who is the propulsive force of the narrative. And she is constantly underrated as a comedic actress, largely because she is also able to bring depth while doing comedy. I'll also just say this. She is far more convincing lip-syncing her songs in that movie than people who have won Oscars for lip-syncing their songs.
Who could you be referring to? How dare you? I'm going to impanel a grand jury.
Who knows? But like watching that movie, and it's like Will Ferrell is doing his comedy singing for those songs, and she is lip syncing some pre-recorded track. I buy it in that movie.
Yeah.
And that's half of the movie.
It reminds me of how much I love, especially in the Marvel movies, maybe more so even than WandaVision, but the way that Elizabeth Moss does finger acting when she does magic
so
shit.
Good at the hand shit.
That's how I feel like about Rachel McAdams doing lip syncing in Eurovision. It's just like, you wouldn't think that would be such an important skill, but it really is.
My winner is Carrie Coon in The Nest, one of my favorite movies of the year. And like, again, I'm looking at this. It's like, I saw all these movies in theaters except for I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which was my most profound at-home viewing experience of the year. I watched the night before I got married.
Oh, wow.
Because I was interviewing Charlie Kaufman like the day after I got married.
Wow.
And I was like, they gave me the screener that day and I was like, well, I got to watch this. I queued it up. I'm like, Jesus, it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. And then I'm like, just sitting with it. This is, anyway. And it's
2 hours and 20 minutes long, and it's 3 scenes.
Exactly. And it's about like the mortal terror of being with someone or being alone.
Right. Right.
But
oh, wow.
I do think there is that's just one where I really know. But then The Nest is Carrie Coon in The Nest is kind of my performance of the year.
Yeah. She's probably my number one too. It's the Carries for me jockeying for number one, Coon and Mulligan, but I think Coon takes mine.
And I think my winner is going to be Elizabeth Moss in Invisible Man.
She rules in that.
It's kind of like it's a coin flip between her and Garner, I would say. But
Garner's incredible, obviously.
Yeah. Moss is just it's such a complicated performance with all of the weird technical aspects of that movie. And the whole thing really does hinge on her being the person you see everything through.
The Field of Optics.
Yes. A pioneer. Is that the phrase? A pioneer in the field of optics.
He's a pioneer in the field of optics.
Yeah.
I really liked that movie when I saw it, and I'd like to see it again. That is, as I'm sure it was for you guys, one of my final pre-pandemic watches in a crowded theater.
I saw it at home in pandemic, but it's the loudest I yelped at a movie during the pandemic was the scene in the restaurant that I don't want to give away in case anybody listening
it's
hasn't seen it. It really, I screamed out loud in my room to nobody. It was amazing.
I wish I'd seen that in theaters. I watched it very early in lockdown because it was one of the first things that then went to iTunes early.
Yes.
And when I made this decision that I was not going to fucking watch all the Oscar movies I hadn't seen, I gave that guy a rewatch. And man, am I glad that I did. Because it certainly felt like I watched it 18 years ago, and the refresher really made me appreciate that movie more.
The assistant is Garner. We all had her. Like, that movie is on her. Obviously, if there's a thermostat performance in there, but like that movie's all in her face. Like, there's just so much that she has to carry every scene where nothing is happening
in her face while she's like reading emails and like that kind of shit. Like, to make that as compelling as it is.
Right. That's the thing for me is I feel like the Invisible Man and assistant performances are very similar in that way. And I worry that I'm giving Moss the edge because she ultimately has to, quote unquote, do more.
Right.
That it's the bigger performance, which is not to say that what Garner is doing is any less complicated and skillful and difficult. Yeah. But they're just really kind of neck and neck for me. Garner had it until I rewatched Invisible Man last night.
Yeah, I feel like that's it, right? Is there anyone else you want to talk about? This is a crowded category. I think McDormand is great in Nomadland. I think Kristen Milioti is great. I'm trying to think of some other big ones.
I'll talk about Haley Bennett for a second, just because I think she's really... That's a movie I think I would like more people to see. It took me a while to get to that one, just because it was just like one of a billion movies that I felt like I heard one or two people talk about at one point. But you get even past the point where you get of just like what the movie is about, which is just like it's called Swallow because she starts to swallow weird household objects. That was another movie that made me like yelp out loud at one point when she starts swallowing thumbtacks and shit. But like it also becomes this really kind of like involved in almost like macabre character study in terms of just like what she's going through and what, you know, her background is. And she's an actress who I have loved since forever. She was in that Greg Araki movie, Kaboom.
Kaboom. Yeah.
Like
Kaboom.
a bajillion years ago. And I'm like, she's a fucking star. And then almost right after that, Jennifer Lawrence happened. And everybody was just like, well, we can't have Haley Bennett because like she looks like too much like Jennifer Lawrence. And it feels like the last few years she's started to sort of like build up more and more and more. And I'm happy about that because I think she's really, really talented.
Yes, she is very talented. Swallow is crazy. Swallow is an intense
really great Dennis O'Hare performance at the end of that movie too.
All right. Well, I'm moving over to actor, guys. Here are my actors. This is a stacked category where every single person is a potential winner for me.
And this was the category I had the hardest time filling out, probably because outside of the obvious picks, there are not many other people. Like, I feel like even when I was looking at long list contenders, it was like, oh, there were like 8 obvious people jockeying for these slots.
Yeah.
And then very few other people outside of that who were even in the conversation anyway.
My nominees are Delroy Lindo in Da 5 Bloods, Mads Mikkelsen in Another Round, Chadwick Boseman in Ma Rainey, Anthony Hopkins in The Father, and Jude Law in The Nest. Those are my nominees.
Picks. They're great picks. Mine are Christopher Abbott in Possessor, Riz Ahmed in Sound of Metal, Delroy Lindo in Da 5 Bloods, Lakeith Stanfield in Judas and the Black Messiah, and Stephen Yeun in Minari.
Ooh.
My nominees are Delroy Lindo, Da 5 Bloods, John Magaro, First Cow,
Cookie,
Jesse Plemons, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Ben Affleck, The Way Back, and Lucas Hedges, Let Them All Talk. He is co-lead. He drives the story.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
I'll accept that.
I thought you were going to fight me more on that.
I don't know. I mean, it's an ensemble.
Yeah.
Like, so it's one of those sort of like, are they all supporting? You know, yeah, I could see him as a lead. I should watch it again, too. He's in a lot of it. You're kind of right.
Movie.
Yeah.
He's in a lot. And he is he's the plot driver.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's sort of the audience surrogate character and is really the POV character as well for almost all of it.
Yes, that is true. Can't.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
It's pretty much either him or Bergen. You're like always pretty much seeing the movie. It's about seeing Meryl through Bergen's eyes or through Hedges' eyes. And then Hedges has all the Gemma Chan stuff as well, where he is so fucking good with her.
Yeah.
He is. He's
wonderful.
So good with her.
You guys had all of my runners up, basically. I had Mads and Jude and Chadwick and Magaro. Those are my next 4. So
yeah,
we are very much in agreement.
We had like no overlap, and yet I feel like you probably don't disagree with any of my choices, Joe.
Yeah, well, Lindo is on all 3 of ours, right? That's the only one. That's
Lindo is my winner.
Yeah,
I just think it's sort of a Titanic performance.
He's my winner as well.
I feel like Titanic's the exact word I use when describing it. It's arguably as good as any acting anyone has ever done on camera. Yep. It's just astonishing shit.
And he's been an actor who I've loved for so long, and I'm sure like it's the same for all of us. He's been like such a great sort of, small parts, and even when it's stuff, stuff like Crooklyn, where he's been in the lead and whatnot.
Just a fucking pro.
Just an accumulation of goodwill and goodwill and goodwill. And this one felt so triumphant for me.
Yeah.
And so much just like he's just like nailing it in, finally getting this really great showcase. And it really, really, like, I don't want to talk about the Oscars too much. It's just like, why didn't this person get nominated? But like, it really bums me out that just award season did not happen for him the way I expected it to. And it sucks.
No, I mean, like, there is, as David said, that very small group of movies where you got so engrossed by them watching them at home that it felt like as captivating as watching the thing in theaters. And Five Bloods is top of that list for me, and so much of that is I just feel like Lindo's performance is like it hits you on a molecular level. It is just so immediately grabbing from his first moment on screen. He's doing so many contradictory things at every moment without showing any of the work. It all feels so natural and lived in, and it's like this fucking like 5-course meal performance where he gets the big Oscar monologue. He has the tearful breakdowns. He's this fucking like tsunami of charisma. I just will never understand how that movie didn't linger with the Oscars at large, and even if that movie is just a little too weird for people and messy for people, it's one of the most bizarre snubs in a long time for me.
Yeah.
It just feels like that performance is undeniable.
It's a crazy snub, and yet I will admit, like, this year's lead acting nominees are all very strong. Like,
all
it's
really
not
good.
Like it's a bad list at all. They've nominated 5 very good performances. It's just tough that Lindo isn't in there,
and 5 performances, especially there's some like
Oldman is the one you should kick out.
Sure,
and I actually like the performance, but he's the one who should not be there. Right.
But like, I'm so happy that like it was not a given even 6 months ago that like Riz Ahmed and Stephen Yeun were going to be Oscar nominees.
Not
I'm
at all.
so
Yeun
thrilled that they are.
That's a pretty quiet performance. Like,
absolutely.
I know he's having a moment as a person and as an actor, and that's helping. And the movie is cresting at the right time for the Oscars or whatever. But like, that is not a movie you watch where you're like, "Oh, that performance is in."
Agreed. I really didn't think it was going to happen until it happened. Like, I was very much just like bracing myself for it to not happen.
The other thing is, like, I mean, I think we're complaining about Oldman, but Mank got in there because of all the dirt he's got on Hollywood.
well,
that's he has too much. He has too many phone numbers he can call. He has too many gossip columnists in his pocket.
Look, he was in the kitchen wearing his standard, incredibly normal apron, and then he slowly turned to the camera and he said, "Let me be Mank." There are no crimes in art.
I want to just say that I'm nodding. I know that I'm not saying anything, but I am nodding.
I appreciate it. I really
appreciate it. You loved every minute of it. I'm Mank.
I liked Mank.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Mank is good. Oh, Mank. He's Mank.
He's Mank. What do you want from him? What do you want? He's Mank. Come on.
Look,
he's Mank.
I'm not saying I didn't like Mank.
Mank. But then this is the thing. It's like Hopkins for me, and I said this to Griffin, like, I described the performance as the destruction of Alderaan, because Griffin was saying, I think correctly, like, do people really want to watch that movie? It's such a tough hang.
I mean, A, do people really want to watch that movie? B, has anyone watched that movie?
That's what I'm saying.
I was questioning with you.
I haven't seen it yet.
I just felt like it literally wasn't getting out there.
And it's one of those movies that when I saw it, it premiered at Sundance last year. I was sitting down being like, "Oh, this sounds like a fucking drag." And then you watch it, you're like, "Oh, this is like one of the most exciting pieces of cinema. Like, this is absolutely electrifying." And he is so good. And then he has a scene at the end that you're like, forget it. He's won. It's over. He has a scene at the end that you're like, it is amazing to me that after that was filmed, he wasn't like, you have to burn that film because it's too fucking intense. Or that the camera didn't just explode. Like, it's the most Oscar-y, it's a great piece of acting, but it's also their bread and butter, and he's not going to win because Boseman is so extraordinary in Ma Rainey, and also you know the tragic narrative there. But I think also just because Boseman is kind of incredible, like I think Boseman might. Who knows, you know? But like, he's so good.
Yeah. David, old Oscar, Mr. Gold himself.
Old Oscar, and Mank knows it.
People think about him being naked, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can see it right behind you.
He's got no pants pockets. He's holding that sword in front of his genitals, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But he's holding something else this year. It's crumpled up, very small, in the palm, underneath the handle of the sword. And you go, what is this? And you step up closer and you go, Oscar, open your hand. What do you got in there? And you take it out and you unfold it, and it says Vontae Mac no matter what.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Doesn't matter what fucking Hopkins did. It's going to be Vontae Mac no matter what.
I couldn't predict. I was like, is this going to be like a cuck joke, like a J.D. Amato style? I was really ready for something. You really delivered. I'm very happy about that.
Look, I haven't seen that movie yet either, but just by all accounts, it's just like it's the same thing as fucking Joker, where it's just like, oh, the guy maybe gave his best performance ever, and also he's a beloved person who was taken from us too soon. Impossible to beat, right?
Yeah, impossible to beat. And yet, Hopkins incredible, Lindo, as we all said, incredible. Mads Mikkelsen in Another Round is so good and so Mads, like, you know, like it's so full. It's such a full spectrum performance of a guy that you often in a Hollywood movie only get to see a sliver of. And, you know, this is true in a lot of the Danish movies he makes, but it's still true. And it's obviously so good that it did resonate with voters because it got that surprise directing nomination.
Yeah. My thing with the father is
the nest.
I since last March, I've been back in Buffalo living with my parents. It's going on 13 months now. It's been a very obviously strange year. And then this year
2020?
Yeah, I'm just going to advance that notion.
Normal year.
But I keep getting confronted with these movies that are like, what if your parents died? Where it's just like, and I watched Dick Johnson Is Dead, and it's a very good movie. And I'm just like, it was a lot to get me to watch that movie because I'm just like, I'm not in an emotional space right now to deal with what if your parents died. And now with The Father, I feel like I'm also being asked to be put in that space.
That is a classic example of a movie. I just cannot imagine when I will feel ready to watch that.
Dick Johnson or The Father or both?
The Father. I watched Dick Johnson, which I love.
Yeah.
But is a tough movie. But I think playful enough in its ways that I could handle it.
The thing about The Father is it is kind of it's cinematic in ways you just don't see coming. But you'll get around to it eventually.
Guess what? I won't see them coming, and I also won't see them, period, because I cannot foresee a time where I will be emotionally and psychologically.
That's when we'll know you've healed, is when you can watch The Father.
Yeah, I look forward to watching it in 2037.
I just want to shout out Christopher Abbott in Possessor, which is a movie I saw very recently.
Mm-hmm.
He's fantastic. He's having that's a movie that like I was sort of prepared for maybe to be like too gross for me, and maybe it was going to be a little bit more than I could handle, but I really loved it. I think it's really Brandon Cronenberg, he got it. And Christopher Abbott's an actor who I feel like every year is like showing me more and more and more. And like, he's so good in this. He's the only thing I liked in that Sundance movie, the Suicide Pact Sundance movie, whose title I am now struggling to think of, with Gerard Carmichael.
Like on the count of
Suicide
three.
Squad.
Yes, the Suicide Squad. He's great. Gerard Carmichael's like Suicide Squad. I did not like that movie, but I thought Chris Abbott was really, really good, and the good part of it. But the Possessor sort of asks him to play, both bewilderment and also like then the parts where he is sort of like being taken over by this, other personality. It's like classic sort of like actors challenge that, you sort of, but I think he plays it in really interesting ways. And I don't know. And Riseborough is also great in that movie. She's one of my runners up for actress, but yeah.
Look, I mean, I haven't seen Whiskey Tango Foxtrot where him being in that role itself is a problem. But outside of that, he's always good.
Yes.
Always good.
Always exceptionally good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Small role, large role, lead, any type of project. He's quietly one of the best we got right now.
Always exciting to see him in something.
Yeah.
Possessor Rules. It is gross, but
Yeah,
good
yeah,
gross.
super gross. But yeah, to the point where sometimes I'm watching it, I'm just like, did we really we have to see that? But yeah, it all works.
Ben told me he thought it was the funniest movie of the year. A feel-good romp for the whole family.
Oh, perfect.
Folks, this is sort of an unusual category. It's another new category we're adding in for 2021, but it's not a competitive category. There aren't nominees. This is sort of like the Gene Hirschfeld Humanitarian Award. Okay, this is a special honor that has to be given out for a dankest sponsor in the history of this podcast. Look, we've had a lot of really chill, dank companies that have given us support over the years, products we love and want to share with our listeners, but one has outdanked them all, and it of course is 3Chi. You know it, my favorite, a company I love so dearly, is so personal to me, of course, because they are the industry leader in Delta 8 THC products. And I was so tired of dealing with these industry followers. You know, and products formulated by some schmoes rather than 3Chi, where all of their products are formulated by a biochemist. A biochemist. And they were made in the USA with USA grown hemp, baby, because I'm a bit of a jingoist when it comes to getting stoned. This is the thing. When they released their first Delta 8 products, they were the first federally legal THC products sold in the USA since Prohibition started almost 90 years ago. And I gotta say, what a long 90 years it had been for me. I really was suffering. But Delta 8 is a federally legal version of THC and is a more functional alternative to marijuana for those who want the same great feelings without the negative side effects. You know, I can't relate to this. I never have had any negative side effects from weed, but I like this product even more than I like weed, which I already liked a lot. It's going to have you feeling amazing, yet functional and clear-headed instead of lazy and paranoid, which, God, I feel so bad for anyone who ever feels lazy and paranoid. And they're not just the best in the Delta 8 industry. They invented the industry. And that's why we couldn't even nominate anyone else against them. Okay? Because they're in a category of their own, literally. Delta 8 is 100% hemp-derived, federally legal, and available online at 3chi.com. That's the number 3, CHI.com. They send you a box and you open it and you go, I cannot believe this is legal. I cannot believe this is a thing that can be sent through the mail. I opened my box and I got very nervous. I said, is someone setting me up? But no, it's entirely federally legal. And you know, you gotta be 21 to purchase, but that's all. That's apparently the only hurdle to clear. So you just go to 3chi.com. That's the number 3, CHI.com to shop for Delta 8 vapes, gummies, tinctures, oils, things that we all know so well to make homemade edibles, combining all the things I do all the time, baking and getting blitzed. So go to 3chi, number 3, CHI.com. Use code BC2021 at checkout to receive 5% off your order. You got to be 21 to purchase. And man, I just love it. And let's all give a big standing ovation to a product that has never named names, has only contributed to the motion picture art form, and has given back to the community. The 2021 Blankie Jimmy Smits Humanitarian Award goes to 3Chi.
Okay, Griff, did you have any other actors you wanted to shout out? Get in your list.
No, once again, I mean, look, this was the category I had to stretch the most. But of the people I put on, look, I think I had 5 good nominees.
That's what I want to say. Despite all your caveats, you have a very robust set of nominees this year.
I guess, look, I mean, my qualifications are that I just felt so aware of how incomplete, because look, the 3 of us are lunatics who feel a compulsion, true compulsion to watch almost everything, right? Mm-hmm. And there are so many things I left off that I felt like I had to offer more qualifiers rather than being like, I'm going to put this person on the same list with this bizarre Griff nomination. But guess what? It ends up sounding not that different than my usual fucking weird
Exactly.
nominations.
It's a good group. Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's some. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, like, Plemons is the least showy of the 4. I'm thinking of ending things.
He's good, though.
Nominees, but he's solid as a rock. He gets a bump from also being really fucking good in Judas, which I like a lot, but did not include for these reasons. And the once again, just one of those guys who's become one of the best. Magaro, super quiet, unshowy work. Probably if I had seen the 4 other devastating best actor frontrunners, he might have gotten
4 other devastating
out.
best actors. Sorry,
but I do want to circle back to one Mr. Benjamin Affleck, where I feel like that movie was supposed to come out October 2019. They bumped it to March. It played in theaters for 10 days before going to iTunes, essentially, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was so early front lines. Like, it was like, oh, that's going out and Bloodshot is going out. 2 of my favorite movies of the year. But I feel like the other things that got put on iTunes early were like Invisible Man, which had already had a decent box office run, right? Yeah. Like, even though it was cut short. And then you have the bigger things that make a bigger splash a couple months later. The thing was just totally forgotten. I think if that movie had gone straight to HBO Max in October or November, he would have been a serious Best Actor contender, even in a crowded year. I think if that movie had come out the previous year in October, he would have been a serious Best Actor contender. I mean, it's hard to extricate it from the narrative, but I rewatched it again last night. It was the other movie I rewatched to look at it. And that guy's just so fucking in the zone at every single moment of that movie. I know it's got juice from the blurring between like everything we know about what this guy's been going through and the thing itself, but he is so incredibly good. I realized watching it because Affleck's got a lot of weaknesses, right? And a lot of times he overreaches. He takes a role that he should not take and drowns in it, right? He is so good at bullshitting on screen. And by which I mean he's so good at playing people who are bullshitting their way through life. It's the thing that I feel like people have always struggled with Affleck is it feels like there's a certain insincerity to him at times, you know, that he's sort of like taking shortcuts and cashing out and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's such a devastating performance the way back. And you look at the combination of the sadness there, the anger there, the quiet poignancy there. I feel like it is the most sort of natural lived in performance he has given for a guy who has, you know, a handful of performances I really love and a far greater number of performances that I think are near catastrophic. But I will say this a hella basic thought, but coming from someone who just watched The Way Back and also had to watch all the fucking Snyder movies last week in preparation for ZSJL. Can you imagine if he fucking played Batman like that?
Be better. It'd be
better. Like, I'm not saying play Batman as a lush, but also just like if he was able to conjure the energy he has coaching.
That's because that's what that movie wants. And I think he's fine in those movies. I actually
Snyder wants him to play like angry, grieving, broken Batman.
Yeah, I think that Snyder, the problem with his performance in those movies is I think Snyder actually does him dirty, even though Snyder obviously wants this out of him and has this whole conception of that character. He then hands him the character arcs of is mad at Superman and feels bad that he killed Superman over 2 movies. And I'm like, I need more than just this guy's pissed off about Superman. Like, there's a Batman movie here that you didn't make. Yeah. Anyway, the Snyder Cut. Yeah. Obviously will dominate 2021's ballot. That's another story.
We're not even going to have a Blankies next year. We're just going to do 2 hours waxing rhapsodic about the Snyder Cut.
Joe, who's your winner?
Delroy, right? All three of us picked Delroy?
Did we all pick Delroy? That's my question.
I think Joe has frozen. But he is frozen in a still image that looks like he is just deep in thought considering his options.
True.
Like his eyes are looking down like he's looking at his list and his lips are just lightly pursed. It looks like he's ramping up to drop the hammer, right?
He looks like Cheryl Boone Isaacs is about to look back up at the camera and confidently say dick poop.
Yeah.
Ben, how you doing? Oh, Joe's gone.
Joe's gone.
Ben, how you doing? Every year, Ben, I always feel so bad for you on this episode because I know you have a heater coming. I know you got something in the pocket, but you have to listen to us blather.
I do want to say, Ben and I went to a drive-in movie last weekend, and Ben was telling me how proud he was that this was the year he felt like he had seen the largest number of Oscar films. That this is the year where I did the least and Ben did the most.
Well, and it just because I wanted to be informed, I wanted to see him. But
yeah,
these episodes, I always prepare myself, and every year without fail, it's like the three of you are speaking another language where I'm picking up little words here and there that make sense, but it's like chained together. It just sounds like, it sounds like a completely different language. But I don't know. I enjoy hearing you guys wax poetic on these topics.
Very charitable.
Is Judas your number one? That's what you said the other night that you think it might be your favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I like a period piece, and it was powerful, and everybody in it was so good.
Lakeith's unreal in that movie.
He is. He's the star for me.
Yeah.
I loved Sound of Metal.
Unsurprising. Yeah. I have not watched it yet.
Movie. Very Ben
movie.
Yep.
Yeah. To Five Bloods I just watched last night. That blew me away. Yeah. It was just like, that's a movie. Like there's what isn't in that movie.
It's just all of it. I mean, that's the thing. I also just feel like that's the only movie I've watched at home aside from the levitational thing that David's talked about where, whatever, you're just fully energized by it as if you were in a theater. I also think that's the only movie I've watched in the last year that genuinely feels epic to me. And it's not just the nature of the story and that it's sort of this throwback to those kinds of adventure movies, Sierra Madre and whatever, but it's also like the ambition of what it wants us to consider. There's such a depth of thought in that movie. And just the expansiveness of the characters and everything.
Yeah, like in rewatching it, there's going to be so much more context to catch because again, there is just so much going on.
I could study that movie forever.
Yeah, I loved it. What did I want to say that I thought? Oh, Minari. I mean, what an incredible movie that made me feel stuff. Do you know? Like feelings?
I do know.
And wait a second,
you're overwhelmed.
A24 just issued a new poster. They're no longer promoting their Oscar nominations. What an amazing movie that made me feel stuff. Ben Hosley, our finest film critic. Couldn't have put it better.
They finally got number one to weigh in. I mean, they kicked Justin Chang off the poster through on Hosley.
Yeah. Joe has returned.
I have returned.
Okay. Hi, Joe. I'll say the Blankie nominees now for the lead performances, which are Delroy Lindo in To Five Bloods, Riz Ahmed in Sound of Metal, Sidney Flanagan, Never Rarely, Sometimes Always, a wonderful performance. Do want to shout out. Frances McDormand in Nomadland, Jessie Buckley in I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Carey Mulligan in Promising Young Woman, Chadwick Boseman in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mads Mikkelsen in Another Round, Stephen Yeun in Minari, and another one that would, in a normal year, be a possible winner for me, Hugh Jackman in Bad Education. Like, one of the best performances that actor has ever given, and he has a strong body of work. Like, a movie, again, that I saw 18 months ago now, and I would like to see again.
Yes.
But it's a wonderful movie.
Let's also say, much respect to that movie. Shout out to Mike Makowski, loyal Blankie, screenwriter of the film, friend of the pod. That is a movie where I feel that is the movie that I feel the worst for in award season just because
it falls through so many cracks.
Yes.
It got totally fucked by the fact that it going straight to HBO would not have been disqualifying if that deal had been made months later.
Just a couple months, but look, it won Emmys. Obviously, it did fine for itself, but yes, I totally agree with you.
It got stuck in a tweener zone, but that's a very strong film with very strong performances and a lovely screenplay.
Yeah.
So before we get to director picture, are there some specialty things we want to do? Griffin, is there anything you had in particular queued up? Score, animated film, these sorts of things.
I mean, I could think of some specific things. I mean, look, it's like I'm incomplete in all these categories.
Yeah, I know.
Right. I might think of some quick things to jump out. I do want to say, it always feels like a little bit of a cheat when I double dip in this category, but I think Thulis kind of has to be the Putters and Murmurs winner for the range of different putters and murmurs he gets to do.
We didn't even talk about Putters and Murmurs. Yes.
I've got some options.
Of course.
I love Thulis. Thulis is a fantastic one. I didn't have him on my list, but I should have.
And let's say also an actor, kind of a Hall of Fame Putters and Murmurs actor, right?
He's done it. He's done the work. We know
like
he's there.
Naked is like puttering and murmuring on amphetamines, you know? And then like this, it's like, that's already his love language is puttering and murmuring. And with this, he gets to like hold on to that dial and go like, okay, now I'm at a 1, now I'm at an 11, now I'm back to 5.
Yep.
Like he's running the gamut. Who else did you have, Joe?
So I have Caitlin Scheel from She Dies Tomorrow, who is a very sort of unconventional Putters and Murmurs, but there's just the murmuring in that movie, as especially in the early going when you don't know what's going on.
Great actor. I look forward to seeing that movie in 2037.
Dick Johnson in Dick Johnson is Dead.
Sure.
Oh,
you have to
big
shout
putter
him out.
and murmurer.
Oh, fuck, that's good.
Yeah. I would shout out Elizabeth Moss in Shirley, which is very Putters and Murmurs energy movie in general. One of those movies where you're like, is this house 1 room wide or 50 million miles wide? Like we're sort of like just moving through messy room after room, wrapped in a sheet, being weird. What are some other good ones?
I've got for Mumbles and Muffles, I got John David Washington and Tenet. There's a lot of muffled dialogue in that film.
I ordered this hot sauce an hour ago. Was there a Trial of Chicago 7 murmur? I guess it's Rylance.
It's sort of Rylance.
But he's not really. I mean, he's puttering and murmuring less than he usually does. He's a little more crisp in that movie.
Peter Capaldi in David Copperfield. I might give a little to.
I have Lucas Hedges and Let Them All Talk for Stutters and Stammers. Just
but we also have to include Adam Sandler and Hubie Halloween if we're going to do that.
Sure,
Excuse me.
We have to.
Excuse me.
The king.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just seeing one thing here. Best supporting thermos in a landslide. It also goes to Hubie Halloween.
Good job, Hubie Halloween. Brian Dennehy in a very nice performance. One of his last performances, Driveways. Very
need to watch that movie.
Yeah. Good movie. Good movie.
I have Sonia Braga and Baccarat for Glowers and Frowners this year.
Joe, I love the work you've done this year.
A city on the face stuff she does in that movie.
Her face is incredible in that film.
If you could harness grumpiness.
But I have an ensemble. My ultimate Putters and Murmurs is an ensemble choice, which is the entire cast of Bloody Nose Empty Pockets, which is just a lot of Putters and Murmurs.
Might as well be called Putter, Putter's nose.
Right.
Whatever,
Bloody Putters,
pockets.
Empty Murmurs. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like for a majority of this year, I've had my outstanding list of things to watch, and a lot of them I'm like, I should watch that. I need to watch that, right? And Bloody Nose Empty Pockets is one of the movies where I'm like, I want to watch that, and I haven't gotten around to it.
You'll
I'm gonna love that thing. Yeah.
A lot of good choices here.
I'm gonna give out another special citation.
Yeah, please.
My award. It's actually it's kind of a condemnation. movie that is most offensive, violently offensive to chronically late people. I'm giving this non-award to Martin Scorsese's The Irishman.
Okay, so you're saying 1 year after its eligibility, you're mad about how rude that movie is about Stephen Graham's
so now you're getting on my
lateness.
fucking face about the fact that I didn't put it in last year? What does it matter?
Wow.
What's the fucking big deal? There was traffic.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you. I've been holding on to that one for a year.
You had some spit on the ball, and I loved it.
I did.
And my animated film this year is Wolfwalkers. Probably sort of become just the du jour choice, but that movie is pretty wonderful. Have you seen it yet, Griffin?
I have not yet. That's also in that top 5 of movies I just genuinely want to watch and haven't gotten
you'll
around
just
to
like
yet.
that.
It'll be a
Right,
fucking
yeah.
warm bath. I mean, my answer is Soul, a movie that I think is deeply flawed, but I also love.
I love Soul.
Yes, I have so many problems with it, and I also kind of just love it. On balance, it works for me, even though a lot of it sticks in my craw. But it's also just it's like that and The Old Guard are the 2 movies that I felt like kind of grabbed me and were making the arguments I needed to hear for the value of life in a year where it feels like life has kind of been taken from us.
Yeah.
You know.
Soul also has
Agreed.
my favorite voice performance of the
I was gonna
year.
say, yeah.
Which is Rachel House in Soul.
Ooh.
I
so
love all
good.
the Jerrys. All the.
I mean,
the
we
little squiggles.
we were just talking up Rachel House in our Moana episode, which is an incredible vocal performance, and also I'm very aware now that Jermaine Clement is half Maori. Thank you, everyone, for correcting me. But egg on my face. But I just want everyone to know I have been corrected. But I was gonna say I think Fox is actually kind of underrated in that.
He's often
especially
underrated.
because he is often underrated, and I think when a movie star that big plays the lead character in an animated film, it does not affect a real voice. People go like, "Oh, well, you're just like cashing in on the movie star energy." But he is a deceptively skillful voiceover actor, and most of that movie's issues come from the handling of that character within what should be his own story. But he's really, really working overtime to sell that shit.
Can I say what my favorite vocal performance is of the year? My very uncool choice.
Sure.
Chris Pratt and Onward.
Chris Pratt and Onward. Like,
Wow.
I think that's a
David,
wonderful performance.
I was about to shout out next. I agree with you. It's a wonderful performance. And I think Onward's issue is kind of Holland.
I agree. Onward is a movie I really like more than I think that, as I think I might have mentioned on an episode, I can't remember. But yeah, I think Holland is kind of just flat in it. He's fine, I guess. But I kind of have a problem with his performance. But I think Pratt is like really good in a role that was written clearly for Jack Black or something like that, right? Had more. And he kind of just puts his own thing on it. He's doing his thing, like his Parks and Rec kind of thing. But I just think it's really, really sweet and like human. It's not just him like funny, doing a week of work.
And funny. Yeah,
and
no,
funny.
It's also just like Pratt had his like big couple of years, and it feels like he sort of like lost the plot a little bit. And weirdly watching that movie, you're like, right, that's why everyone got so into the idea of being a movie star.
He's also so funny in the Lego movies. I mean, we should, he's good at that shit.
Yeah,
he's really good at
that
vocal
like Lego
performances,
movie Guardian same year kind of thing. And the thing that Onward gets right, that those 2 movies got right, and a lot of the other Pratt performances in between have gotten wrong, is he is best playing a little boy in a large adult's body. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is. And you can put it in different genres and modify it in different ways. But the more straight-faced you make Pratt as a conventional leading man, the less interesting he becomes, rather than as a sort of odd abstraction of a leading man where it's like, this is a little boy pretending to be a movie star in his backyard.
Right.
And that's what his performance in Onward is, and he's great in it.
I want to say that the Blankie choices for a few categories, smaller categories, I'm just going to shout them out now. For cinematography, they had Nomadland, Tenet, First Cow, Mank, and Lovers Rock. 5 great
Very
choices. For music, they had Soul, Tenet, Mank, Minari, and Eurovision Song Contest. Okay. And for ensemble, which do we usually do? Maybe we have. I can't remember. They have Da 5 Bloods, Minari, Mangrove, One Night in Miami, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. All good choices.
Yeah.
I just want to call out the Five Bloods thing too, which is like Five Bloods is a movie that could have had like multiple best actor, supporting actor contenders.
Yes.
Everyone's good.
Clark Peters and Jonathan Majors and Chadwick Boseman are all like really top tier, and then you have so many other good performances in the movie. But Spike Lee's intention for that movie was to sort of like bring his all-stars in and do it with Denzel. And in the Delroy Lindo part, John David Washington's the son, Samuel Jackson, Giancarlo Esposito. And it was like Netflix wanted it soon. He couldn't wait for all those schedules lined up. He ended up just casting
good actors
great
who he's worked
fucking
with.
Actors. Right,
Yeah.
right.
But a little more in the character actor zone than the big star
Yes.
zone. Yeah.
But to that movie's credit as an ensemble, I really think it's one of the secrets to why that movie works so well is that you genuinely don't feel like as titanic as Delroy Lindo's performance is, like any star is too big in terms of what they're bringing past baggage to overpower the movie or make you feel like the hand is tipped too much as to who's going to survive and in what form. And I just think, that movie ended up being cast absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
It's also nice that like Boseman's the biggest star in it, and that he has that's the other thing he's talked about. He would have done like Irishman de-aging if they'd given him the budget to do it, but it ends up being so much more poignant.
I like it better the way they do it. I really do.
The way they do it's so good.
Right. And it now is only imbued with more power that Boseman has passed.
Yeah.
Let's do our best directors and picture. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's wrap it
up. Speaking of Spike Lee, The Five Bloods.
Oh, here we
Kitty
go.
Green, The Assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Wannell, Invisible Man. Kelly Reichardt, First Cow. Charlie Kaufman, I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Right. Mine are Kelly Reichardt, First Cow. Sean Durkin for The Nest. Christopher Nolan for Tenet. Charlie Kaufman for I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and Steve McQueen for Lovers Rock.
Very good. All right, mine are Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Sean Durkin for The Nest, Steve McQueen for Lovers Rock, Kelly Reichardt for First Cow, and Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. Now I do wish I had put Christopher Nolan in there, though. I wish I had the guts. I wish I had the guts. Love it.
It was number 6 for me.
Tenet.
Mank. Mank.
Tenet.
Let me be Mank. I think people know where this is going. My winner is Spike Lee.
Yeah. Right. My winner is Kelly Reichardt. I usually pick my favorite movie of the year for this category.
Mine is also Kelly Reichardt. Yep. Kelly Reichardt.
Boss. The Blankies picked Kelly Reichardt, Chloe Zhao, Spike Lee, Steve McQueen, and Lee Isaac Chung. With Chris Nolan is the 6th there too. And
good job,
oops, I closed that by mistake. All right, so best picture. All right, so should we each just do our top 10s?
That first year we did the
we talk about it all the time.
Chaos pick. Yeah.
Right.
We were learning. We were still figuring it out.
We were so young.
I'll give you the Blankies first. So here was their top 10. Number 1, First Cow. Number 2, Palm Springs. Wow. Number 3, Nomadland. Number 4, To Five Bloods. Number 5, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. 6, Minari. 7, Sound of Metal. 8, Lovers Rock. 9, Never Rarely, Sometimes Always. 10, Tenet.
Tenet.
Okay. David, would you like to list your top 10 of the year?
My 10, at this point, it's always changing, but my 10 right now is First Cow, number 1. Lovers Rock, number 2. Those two have been pretty locked the whole time. I'm Thinking of Ending Things, number 3. The Nest, number 4. Tenet, number 5. Back Around, number 6. Minari, number 7. Never, Rarely, Sometimes Always, number 8. Da 5 Bloods, number 9. And Mank, number 10.
Mank.
I was going to leave him out. And then he, took me into his walk-in humidor.
He had the goods on you too. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. He's got the goods.
Mine, I'm going to go
Joe.
from 10 to 1 if you'll permit.
That's fine. Of course.
My number 10 is Possessor. My number 9 is Mank. 8, Bloody Nose, Empty Pockets. 7, Nomadland. 6, Promising Young Woman. That's 6. 5 is Bacurau. 4 is Soul. 3 is The Nest. 2, Minari. And my number 1 movie of the year is First Cow. Love that cow.
Yes. Cow Army
Love
Rise
them
Up.
donuts.
Yeah.
I left Soul off my list through my own weird disqualifications, even though it wasn't the best picture contender, but that would have ranked 5 or 6 for me. But here's my 10. The Old Guard.
Is that 10?
Number 10. Yeah. That movie really fucking hits for me. Number 9, Let Them All Talk. Number 8, The Way Back. I always forget how much I like a Gavin O'Connor movie until I'm watching a Gavin O'Connor movie. And sometimes when I'm not presently watching it, I then immediately start underrating him once again.
He knows what he's doing. He knows what to do.
What he's doing. And I think he is one of the best chroniclers of masculinity, at least in American cinema, especially on the studio level. Number 7, Tenet. Number 6, The Invisible Man. Number 5, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. Number 4, The Assistant. Number 3, First Cow. Number 2, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And number 1, To Five Bloods.
That's a good 10.
List. It's a good 10, Griffin.
I'm proud of my 10. All these fucking disclaimers at the beginning is I just didn't want people yelling at me being like, but what about Minari? But what about this? What about that? And the answer is, with all these movies, either I didn't fucking watch them or I watched them and I felt like I didn't really connect to them and I don't feel like I can actually hold that against the movie.
Just admit you're making that up because no one's ever yelled at anyone on the internet and you're just afraid of Mank and you're just trying to get around Mank, but he's got people everywhere and he knows everybody.
I was too afraid to be Mank. I was too afraid to be Mank. I couldn't.
I will say, because we talked about most of these movies, but I will say that Lovers Rock, which obviously doesn't sort of figure into acting and screenplay nominations as much. Not that the acting and screenplay is bad, but it's all sort of part of this beautiful tapestry. That movie is just magnificent. It's beautiful. It was like the biggest surprise of the year. I had no idea what to expect going in. It's the one that I am the most, since I've seen Tenet in a theater, it's the one that I am the most like, I gotta see that shit with people someday. Hopefully
the regret I have for not being able to see that movie with people. I mean,
the regret I have for not being able to see any movies with people.
Yeah.
I mean, I did. It's funny. Like I was looking at my list and the amount of shit that I watched this year that didn't even come within a mile of making any of these categories, but that I watched like the day it went up. And I was just like, oh, I definitely prioritized any movie that I would have watched on an airplane.
Right.
You know?
Right. That makes sense.
Where I just like I will feel zero depression about the fact that this is how I'm watching this film.
Yeah.
And even just like there was the fucking week recently where like Coming to America, SpongeBob 3, Tom and Jerry, and there was one other one all came out the same day. And I was just like, oh, this is my biggest movie going weekend since the pandemic started. 4 movies I will feel no guilt about watching at home.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. Here's the thing about Lovers Rock, and I'm ready to get into it, is what about this thing about whether it's television or movies? You guys, we got to get into it. We got to talk about it.
Oh, well, I should make it clear. I'm sorry. I'm going to change my list. My number 1 film of 2020 was season 4 of The Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Right.
That is definitely my favorite thing I watched last year.
It made the list. Wow. Right. I think of that as 26 individual movies, so...
Yeah, my number 11 is The Real World New Orleans, which is all on YouTube, by the way, that I watched very early on in quarantine. So
I'm going to change my list again. My number 1 is clips of magicians I watch on YouTube when I can't sleep. That was my favorite movie of 2020.
I got into the weirdest
boy.
shit on YouTube, not to like derail the conversation, but like the weird like 3-week runs where I watched like professional darts videos on YouTube, which is like a weird, like more of a weird subculture than even you'd think of. It's just like there's so many
Look,
odd little
I mean, I
diversions.
spent so much time on YouTube this last year, pointedly not engaging with YouTube culture, quote unquote, but using YouTube as my personal Paley center. But I asked this for both of you guys. David, I know in particular you're addicted to signing up for streaming services. You've been talking about how you just love fucking signing up for every single one.
Paramount. I got so mad that I couldn't sign up for Paramount Plus because I was already a CBS
I was
All
already
Access
signed up for
subscriber.
CBS All Access.
Same.
Yep.
It just converts. Damn it.
Same. I know.
I can't browse their poorly transferred library of shitty films.
You know what bums me out? I signed up for some fucking 6-month run of CBS All Access as a channel on Apple TV.
Wow.
So I gotta wait for that to die out before I can even dive into their shitty user interface. But
so bad.
It's really bad.
Have either of you pulled the trigger on YouTube Premium? Because that just feels like, on one hand, a bridge too far for me, and on the other hand, I am so goddamn tired of watching that fucking medication commercial with Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen.
I think your mental health would be best improved by a vaccine, which you will get soon, which is
That's
exciting.
the number one thing I need right now.
Yes.
The thing with YouTube Premium to not get ads on YouTube is like, I've already done this with Hulu.
Yeah.
And I can't go back. The thing where like they said like, oh, you can bundle Hulu now with Disney Plus and it's a lot cheaper and whatever, but it's Hulu with ads.
Joe,
can't do it. I can't go back. I can't go back now.
Joe, dig into account settings and you will find that they now give you the option, because that's what I do.
But I just want, Griffin, you have to pay for YouTube Premium. It is a must.
It is one of the things that is absolutely breaking my brain the most.
It is, I would say, a more essential streaming service than almost anything. And I don't think I watch nearly as much YouTube as you do. The second I made the switch, I was like, never, ever looking back. I would pay more. If they emailed me tomorrow and they're like, it's $40 a month now, I'd be like,
well, I got it. What, you got me.
Look, I obviously also avoided a lot of the atomic bombs of cinema this last year, but no question, my least favorite movie of 2020 is that fucking Sheen and Sheen medical. I cannot.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. God. There are things I know now that I could never unknow.
Oh no.
I do love YouTube Premium. They know. I would say the most obscure service that I pay for is AMC Plus, which is a bundle of AMC, IFC, Shudder, and Sundance Now. It is weird how often something I want to watch is in that little catch-all. And I've quite enjoyed it. Yeah.
I'm gonna sign up for this fucking shit right now.
So we're done. I would say we did another year. I do think next year will be better, Griffin. I hope you agree with me.
Yes, it will.
It will. So yes.
And it is crazy. It's been the weirdest year ever. I wonder if I will be in a strange situation next year since I have a baby. Like, God knows, am I gonna watch fucking, my usual 150 movies? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Like you've been telling, we were talking about it off mic somewhere else, but that you've been watching more stuff now with the baby because you're so much on the couch holding her.
Yes, but I'm not watching a lot of new stuff. I'm mostly watching my Gentle Film Festival, which is going great.
Your Letterboxd list of Gentle films made me so happy when I found it yesterday.
But also a year from now she's going to be more actively a handful. It will change things.
She's right now she's pretty immobile, so she really just has to do what I say. But eventually she's going to need more entertaining, and I don't know if my Gentle movies list is going to do it for her.
Only because you brought it up, I feel the need to mention. Look. I certainly understand a certain power in the absence of words, but I really feel like she contributed nothing to this episode. And for how adamant you were about adding an additional mic setup, giving her her own Zoom account, keeping her here for the entire recording, she has not contributed a single goddamn thought.
You joke, and it's a funny joke, but I do. This is my first recording. This is my first blank check recording, apart from some March Madness, bits, with a baby. And we're about to release probably 2 months worth of episodes, Griffin, where I am sort of alluding to the fact that something big is brewing in my life, without saying anything.
I have an amazing little play on words that eagle-eared listeners might be able to hear, pick up on at some point.
But I am genuinely wondering what I'm going to come out to when I walk out of this room, and it is the first time I'm having that experience. Well, I'll come out and I'll be like, "Well, so what's up?" And Forky might be like, "Oh yeah, she slept for the whole time," and I'll be like, "Oh, okay." Or I might walk,
or she might be like baby in hand, being like,
right.
take her.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, she might be the poster for I don't know how she does it.
Yeah,
right. But I do want to apologize for her lack of contribution to this episode. But maybe one day she'll weigh in.
Next year she'll have her own list, and we'll
she
be
is
very happy for
the newest member of the Blankie family, and she's happy to be here.
I just. David, I hope you don't take this personally, but I just, as it currently stands, I don't think she has incredibly good taste in films.
I will say the movie she has paid most attention to so far was Serendipity on HBO Max, and I think it's a good start.
Yeah, you also said she hiccuped throughout the Snyder Cut, which is a certain type of attention, maybe negative attention.
She had a reaction.
It's a reaction.
And ultimately, isn't that all Zach is trying to do?
He's provoking. He's trying to provoke, and she hiccuped at how uncompromising everything was. Yes.
Yeah.
You joke about it though, David, but it is the number one reason I look forward to getting the vaccine imminently is just the ability to fucking go to the theaters again. I do think it will take a very long time before I can rebound in other aspects of my life. And I imagine I'm going to be someone who continues to go to theaters at off hours and perhaps also buys multiple seats to even insulate myself greater from other people than the little distancing that they put in. But the idea of being vaccinated and being able to wear a mask, sit far away from everyone else, not be terrified for my mortal life, and go see fucking Raya and the Last Dragon at 11 a.m. is just it's not like I didn't know this, but it truly this year has erased all doubt of how much my sanity is really kept in check by dumb movies.
Griffin, when I'm back in the city, we'll both buy up a whole row of seats. We'll sit at opposite ends. We'll see a movie. It'll be fun.
This is another thing I did. I realized, I'm going to throw this out as a gift to Blank Check listeners. They have these rules at the chains where it's they can only sell to a certain capacity, right?
Yeah.
So if you buy one seat, then suddenly the 4 seats directly around that seat are all unavailable.
Right.
There's whatever advertised amount that it costs to rent out a screen to yourself, right? Where the risk inherent is always well, some guy can sneak into your theater or whatever, right? Sure. Which is a reason I have not done it more often. But there is mathematically, if the screen the film is playing on is small enough, an amount you can spend to buy 8 tickets.
Right. If you triangulate your placement and whatnot. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be my move once I get vaccinated.
We could Ocean's 11 this whole thing. Yeah, we could form a plan.
It ends up being much cheaper.
Yeah,
sure.
Especially if I feel a lot of these theaters are doing half off matinee for most of the day into the early evening for most of these movies because they so desperately just want people back.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
movies.
So we're done. Ben, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I don't know why you'd throw to him like that. He rarely has something chaotic to add at the end of these episodes.
I just have some original categories I'd like to revisit.
Okay. Oh, okay, cool. Sure.
If that's okay.
Sure, they'll be normal. Normal.
Yeah. So just, there's the lead category here. Films that should be remade with babies, animals, puppets, also fruit, and now clowns too. Maybe a robot or two could be cool. Now it's chains. That's a new thing. But actually, how about we add Monster Hunters?
Hunters!
For babies, Nomadland. How about Nomad Babies? That's cute.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
They ride around in little campers.
little Power Wheels.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be adorable.
I do want to say, just because you've reminded me now, Ben, I apologize for failing you as a friend. The frequency with which Ben texted me that we should rent out that theater in New Jersey again to go see Monster Hunter. I feel bad that I didn't have the courage to do that.
That's okay. That's all right. We'll I don't know. We'll have them run it again.
Yeah.
We'll demand that they program it for a 6-month run at the Metrograph.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Animals, I Care a Lot would be a lot better because it's a depressing, despicable movie. And then if it was animals, it would be, I don't know, a little bit more digestible.
I Bear a Lot. If it started
Bear a Lot.
Well said. Nice.
Very good. Like that. Puppets, I think the Trial of Chicago 7 wouldn't change really at all if it was just performed by puppeteers, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip Robot because I couldn't really find anything that's good. Chains also kind of doesn't really work because it's an insane idea, but I'll just say this.
Oh, that's the problem?
Yeah. Tenet. All right, what if the chains were off the chain? Do you know what I mean? They were unlinked. You saw it in real time.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Right. All right.
Trains kind of run backwards and forwards too, so you got something there.
Yeah, you could work with that.
There's that. And then Monster Hunter's Hillbilly Elegy. Have the hunters kill those dang monsters that you're seeing on screen. This
So
terrible makeup.
Mila Jovovich just like bursts in and starts wailing on Glenn Close.
Yeah,
exactly.
That works.
I do kind of want to see Paul W.S. Anderson's Hillbilly Elegy.
Yeah.
Hillbilly Hunters.
Yeah. They're good monsters, bad monsters, and neutral monsters. Yeah.
That's great. The Wetties, right? Another category of mine. Now this year, or the Golden Mops, of course. Right. Mank, because that boy is soaking, right?
He is.
Yep.
He's drenched.
Young promising.
He's pickled.
He's pickled. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Promising Young Woman. There's all the lake stuff. Right. So
Sure.
That there's some dampness going on. Another round. It's Mads drenched, folks. I mean, come on. To Five Bloods, because it's very sweaty, very sweaty movie.
Very.
Blood
Probably
is
one of the
liquid.
sweatiest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, the sweatiest of the year, I'd say.
Have you seen Let Them All Talk?
No.
Set on a
It's got a
boat.
big ass boat.
It's not a boat.
Whole movie's on water.
There's just ocean as far as the eye can see.
Oh wow. All right. Well, my last one was Palm Springs because again, everyone's drunk. That was like kind of the through line for this year.
I also, Ben, you got to check out Weathering with You, the Japanese anime
yeah,
movie
you do.
by Makoto Shinkai, where a girl turns into a cloud.
It's
Ben.
Yeah.
Oh shit. That sounds cool.
It is a movie about what if
precipitation.
the weather was a girl.
Your girlfriend.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my god. Wait.
Yeah. What if you were dating precipitation? It's really
But
yeah.
only
Fuck.
the wet weather.
Right.
That's amazing.
But it's like one of those things like, she's perfect. She's so cool. You get along great. One problem, she's a cloud.
One problem, record scratch. She's made of rain.
I feel like that's also in that batch of like the last movies I saw in theaters for the year, and I was so kind of confounded by it. I like it, but that movie is so perplexing in its ultimate message, which seems to be, I don't know, if global warming is going to happen, we should probably just let it happen. Right?
That's what I love about that
sit
movie. At
back
the end,
and
he's
enjoy
like,
your life.
the teens shall inherit the earth. You're all going to drown, bitch. I want to date my girlfriend. But spoiler alert.
Who are we to try to prevent ourselves from dying? Is
Right.
sort of the message of the movie.
Ben, another wet movie you should check out that I think you would really dig is Underwater, which is a film that is set, wait for it, under the water.
And
Nice.
has
Great
monsters.
setting.
And
has
it has
monsters.
monsters.
Yeah.
Yes. They're not really being hunted, but they're definitely being dealt with.
Yeah, and one of them's above the title.
That's right.
It's a TJ Miller joke. Folks,
is.
thank you all for listening.
Oh, sure.
Ben, did you have anything else? You're
Really
taking
quickly.
us out on that.
Yeah, I know. I need to let Joe go. All right. No thank yous. this year's The
Oh, of
Father, a movie that asks, what if there's a dad? It's like, no, thank you. The Snyder Cut, cut it all out. I'm not interested. I know it doesn't even qualify for this year, but I'm not watching 4 more hours of fucking superhero movies.
You're officially giving the Snyder Cut the Uncle Joey Award?
Yeah, cut it out. 100%. Yeah. Rather watch the puppet that he performs with on that show than watch that thing. God. I'm thinking of ending me. This movie is bonkers. What the hell is this? Hillbilly Elegy seems bad. Didn't see it. Don't need to see it. Not good. The Personal History of David Copperfield, really a letdown. Thought I was going to learn about the magician. Totally different movie.
I tell you, I didn't see that coming, and I feel bad that I didn't see it coming.
It was right there.
I really should have.
Yeah, exactly.
The secret is sometimes he's so left-brained that the most surprising thing he can do is go for the easy joke.
Oh, that's good.
Anything else, Ben? Was that it?
Quickly, honorable mentions. I always like to shout out some scumbummery. This year in particular, Damian Young, who rules, really stuck out in Trial of the Chicago 7, and I care a lot. I think he's just like a really cool character actor who I feel like pops up every once in a while. He's notable for being the bus driver on Pete and Pete.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Stu.
Best vomit, Mank, of course, hands down.
Great vomit.
So
Great
good.
Vomit.
So good.
Third act vomit.
Whoa. Cinematic. Damn. Best Possession is, of course, Possessor. That movie is fucking nuts. And quickly, best band tease, Sound of Metal, of course. And we got Jism, Japanese hardcore band. They got the German band Eidstrun Zende, New Bauten, the industrial noise band, Arabic version of a Motorhead shirt, and Youth of Today, and some other stuff. Anyway, that's my original categories and honorable mentions for this 6th annual Blankies Awards.
There's one. We're all done. I forgot to mention Griffin. This is a fuck up. The most irresistible movie of the year was Irresistible. Sorry, I just had to mention.
We couldn't.
Sorry,
we couldn't resist it. Yeah, we couldn't resist it. Oh, thank God you got that in there. That would have been rough.
Right.
Folks, thank you all for listening. What a crappy year. To next year's Blankies, a return to normalcy, and by normalcy I mean the way that things used to suck before this.
Right.
Hey,
please
the kind of shitty that I was used to.
Yeah.
But thank you all for listening, and please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thanks to Marie Barty for running our social media, especially now that we're finishing up this absolute gauntlet of March Madness, which seems to have been a little weird this year.
Wait, I have an interview with one of the voters from March Madness. I did not murder him. Sorry.
A thing that may or may not have contributed to me being like, fuck it, I'm gonna just nominate whatever the fuck I want. I'm not gonna watch all these, but I can't deal with anything. I'm done with film culture. And I hope people are ready to have to go to physical locations to vote in person for March Madness next year.
ID. We're going full Mitch McConnell on
full on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you to Lee Montgomery, the Great American Novel, for our theme song. And Alex Barron and AJ McKeon for all the editing help they've been doing in general on the show. Tune in next week for a new leaf.
Hey, April will be May.
We're turning a new leaf. April will finally be May. Just a nice, quick 4-episode miniseries about one of the all-time greats.
I'm looking forward.
Joe, do you get it?
I got it.
You get the joke.
I got it. It's April for May.
It's April
for May.
But we're doing May. Yeah.
Right.
And head over to blankcheck.com/Patreon for Blank Check special features where we are still trekking. Still trekking, getting ready for whatever's going to win that March Madness bracket. Joe, thank you.
Thank you, guys. You know I love doing this. I love getting up in my awards nerdery with you guys. I feel like we connect on this. I feel like we're, I don't know, kindred spirits.
Simpatico.
Yeah, I mean, we need to have some longer conversation about the Lakeith thing at some point off mic, because I'm just fascinated about it from an Oscar standpoint. We'll take it to the group text. And as always, just to clarify, the joke is that the filmmaker's name is Elaine May.
Right.
And she only has 4 movies. We do 1 movie a week on the show, so it's
and a
1
month
month worth of episodes.
Right,
exactly.
Right.
And so we could have done those 4 movies in May, but instead we picked the month right before May, which is April.
Right.
So April is May.
And if you think about it, April 1st, April Fools. That's how we're starting. We're starting the month out.
Crazy.
It's a whole month of practical jokes.
Yeah. It's a goof.
Yeah.
Also, listen to my podcast. I'm just going to say that.
Oh, fuck yeah. Jesus. Listen to
my podcast. It would be nice.
God, how are we 6 years in and we still
It's fine. Listen, it's a long day. This had Oscar buzz. Go to had_Oscar_buzz on Twitter. I'm just gonna be shameless about it. It's fine.
And it's shameless. Follow the link in the episode description to check it out.
Do it.
Bye.